This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome to andBeyond in Ngala, everyone. A little bit of a chillier morning today, which is really nice considering the heat that we had yesterday afternoon. My name is Nick, and behind camera we've got Gert this morning, and our plan is to head off into the central western part of Ngala. The whole Pride, the Birmingham Pride, are still on the giraffe carcass with no signal, unfortunately, and there are a few signs of the pack of African wild dogs coming into the eastern part of Ngala this morning, but a couple of the rangers are in that area having a look around. So we're going to head off into the central parts and see what presents themselves to us this morning, potentially looking for any fresh tracks and signs of any animals, maybe some elephants, or if we're super lucky this morning, we could potentially even find ourselves a leopard. I think the plans from the rest of the rangers this morning, I think Tristan and it might be Jonty at Juma, if I'm not mistaken, both looking for leopard. So it sounds like a leopard morning in the Sabi Sands. And then we've got Mike at Pridelands on bushwalk this morning as well. So I think it's going to be a really exciting and fun-filled drive. With cooler weather like we have this morning, if we are able to find any of the nocturnal animals or any of the predators, there's a good chance that they will still be active, which is always much better than a inactive leopard or lion, as well as the fact that we could even pick up on something like a honey badger or a serval just doing a last little patrol for the morning. Tracks of what looked like a large elephant bull crossing over the road, heading from our right to our left. And this area on the left of us that Johan is just panning towards, you can see this beautiful big jackalberry tree and a couple other trees on the left. But it's an incredibly big wilderness area or block where the roads drive around. So I think we'll keep driving into that area we're planning on heading towards this morning. But I think for now we're going to send you over to have a look at all the weather at the different locations.
Certainly is very different weather to what we were experiencing yesterday. Very welcome cloud cover, a nice kind of cool morning, and a perfect start with a big herd of buffalo that's rolling in to town. They are heading on to quarantine at the moment, but we'll get into that shortly. My name's Tristan. On camera I have got Morgan once again. Very subdued Morgan this morning, everybody. It's not as cheerful and bright and chirpy as normal, and we were hoping that there's not something wrong. Anyway, with the buffalo herd, unfortunately this buffalo herd is one member light this morning. The Talamatis and Dark Mane Evoker were able to bring one down last night on Buffel's Hook. Unfortunately, it will be in an area where we won't be able to go and see it. There is no signal where they have caught said buffalo. Interestingly enough, apparently it was Dark Mane that was the one that actually pulled it down. So there you go. A lot of you have asked whether he would participate in buffalo hunts, and there is your answer. It wasn't a difficult hunt, I don't think, given that this buffalo that was killed was one that they'd attacked for the last 3 nights. They've been going after that, and they had severely injured it about 3 nights ago. And so it was just kind of trailing, and it was blood loss, so it just wasn't in good shape. And I think they managed to eventually put it out of its misery, which is not the worst thing for that buffalo. It's never nice when you see animals that are suffering. Anyway, the herd is slowly, like I say, rolling over the road. You can hear lots of them still coming. We know this is a large herd. Nice to actually see them starting to come out onto quarantine. It's very seldom that we get big herds of buffalo coming out onto the clearing. Normally they like to kind of approach through the thickets and then down to the dam itself. But today they look like they, with the weather especially, are going to cover the whole of the open clearing, and we should get a nice big grouping coming through. Must admit, a lot of people are not big fans of buffalo, or viewing buffalo, but I absolutely love a buffalo herd. There's something about this number of them and the power that they possess that is incredibly intriguing and alluring. And I thoroughly enjoy watching all the little elements of the herd and how, the bulls are interacting with one another, the cows are, doing their thing, little babies are suckling, there's oxpeckers that are amongst them, and, well, we also know every now and then the odd lion that comes through and messes around. So buffalo herds always bring something to the party. Like I say, thoroughly enjoy when we have them in the area. And they are incredibly good for the environment. They churn the soil up, they obviously graze well, they defecate a lot, which is returning nutrients and fertilizing as they go, spreading seeds. So it's important to have big herds of buffalo, and nice that we've been starting to see them coming back into the area. Apparently there's two groups that were in Buffelshoek last night. There's the big one that we've been seeing a lot of, which is this herd. You can see they're still coming over the road. And then there's a secondary smaller group apparently that entered in from Manyaleti. So it seems that most of the kind of herds are starting to come back into the area, which is wonderful news. It's crazy to think in 2018, I think, 2018 to 2019, I went a whole year without seeing a buffalo on Juma, which is pretty ridiculous. Nowadays, we don't have to worry as much. We're starting to see a lot of them. We still haven't got those kind of males that hang around. It's mostly just herds that have been moving through. But as herds move through, so males will start to drop off, and we'll eventually have a situation where we get those bulls hanging around water points and things like that, like they often do. Now, this particular herd should be the one that's got that absolutely monstrous buffalo in it. He's got huge horns. So he should be lurking around here somewhere. Those of you that haven't seen the buffalo herds over the past few days won't know what I'm talking about, but there's a massive, massive, massive bull in amongst this group. He's got ridiculously big horns. It kind of puts everybody else to shame. So I'm sure we'll spot him at some point. The other nice thing about this herd is there's quite a number of yellow-billed oxpeckers that are in the herd. So that's also a nice thing to see. Omega, yes, I have experienced a buffalo stampede a few times, actually. It's not a very pleasant thing at night when you can't see what's going on. And it's so counterintuitive because a lot of people, if they've ever been in this experience, will know the thundering of this many hooves around you is petrifyingly scary. But the instinct is that for a lot of very young guides or people in general is to put your lights on immediately to see what's going on, and it's quite possibly the worst thing that you can do. When you put your lights on, what it does is it creates a tunnel where the buffalo can see, and so they run towards it. Now what's behind the light is you, and so you end up then getting absolutely smashed by buffalo. So it's always better just to keep your lights off, but it's quite something to see this many animals when they run. Do you know what we've also got? Not just a big buffalo bull, but we've also got something else that's big behind us. Hold on, everybody. I just need to turn to show all of you what's joined us in this sighting this morning. We have, obviously, a buffalo, but we also have the largest human known to man in his little car. Now, isn't this cute? Look at that. There's little Jonty and his little blue beetle. Hello. I don't think you're going just yet, Jonty. I don't think you're going anywhere just yet. Funny to watch this car. I know, I actually do want to see it. I think we should let you go and see how it goes. All right, awesome. Let's make space for John T to come through so we can see him navigating the sea of buffalo. All right, I think we've given him enough space. Bye, John T. Have fun.
Okay.
It amazes.
Come out of it.
So John T's saying he's hopes he comes out of it, but I don't think anyone has predicted that we'd get a little baby blue beetle bumbling along through a herd of buffalo. The buffalo seem quite confused by this too. I don't think they've ever seen one of these. Well, apparently the beetle was scared of the buffalo and actually just turned off. So this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. This has made your day, Morgan? Morgan is thoroughly enjoying the little baby blue beetle. I know, let me go forward so we can watch him drive off into the distance. There we go, he's made it through, everybody. There we go, arm out, pointing like a good safari guide should. How does he fit in that car? That's what I want to know.
He doesn't fit in Wendy, but
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't fit in Wendy, he just fits in Rusty, but somehow the baby blue beetle is working. And off he goes into the morning darkness. Anyway, all right, we'll sit with these buffalo for a while longer. Let's see what they get up to. You never know, maybe the Nkuhumas have heard them and come in. We'll just kind of check around and see what's happening.
All right, everyone, so as you can see, we have managed to find quite a nice scene here this morning. As Jan zooms in, you'll see a beautiful zebra with really stunning markings on. Relatively dark zebra. If you have a look at the neck, you'll see the thicker, darker stripes. And notice how he has got his mouth right down to the ground and busy grazing this morning. I think with these animals still being out in the open is a result. If you look, you might just be able to see the grass blowing a little bit. There's quite a strong southerly breeze blowing this morning. And you can imagine when it's windy, the animals don't really want to be in the thickets because then they won't be able to smell, firstly, what's going on around them too well. And when they're in the thickets, the wind blowing in the leaves and blowing in the bushes really makes life difficult for them. They become really quite nervous. And with that, there have been some impala that have been around here. They haven't been alarm calling, but standing also quite cautiously, just having looks around. And that's actually the reason why we stopped here, because we thought maybe the impalas had spotted something that we hadn't. And there you can see 3 of them moving down. Looks like 2 ewes and 1 young male at the back there. Maybe going into his 2nd year. You can see how they really want to stick quite tightly together this morning, not move too far away from each other. I think for the next little while we'll just sit tight and let you enjoy the quiet that this morning has to offer.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands. I am sitting at Twin Dams, and I actually decided it would be a really good idea to come and have a look for a leopard here this morning. My name is Tessa. It's an absolute pleasure to be back with you, guiding you since 7 months ago was the last time I was in the seat behind the camera. We haven't all and we are so excited to hopefully find you a leopard today. It's a little bit cold and windy. You can see it's a bit overcast, and I was actually coming down here to look for some tracks because there were tracks of a female leopard that Jonty was looking for yesterday. Very big shoes to fill for me, but they were coming south towards this dam, and I was really hoping that she would have come down to the dam to drink last night, and that maybe I'd pick up some tracks that I could follow her with this morning. No such luck for me. But it's actually a really, really beautiful relief kind of feeling with this cool weather, and so I'm also hoping that with it being overcast and windy, we might get lucky. It's not so hot today. Maybe she'll actually still be moving at this time of the morning. Thank you so much for the incredibly warm welcome back. I've gotten an amazing array of messages and love, so thank you so much to everybody who's been excited to see me. I've definitely missed you all, and it's just absolutely incredible to be back in the seat. Everything I'm looking at with new eyes. It's actually my first time at Djuma Private Game Reserve, so I'll be seeing it for the first time with you. Some of you might actually know the property and the animals better than I do, so if I get lost, don't laugh at me. And if I ask for help, please help me identify some of the leopards and hyenas on the property. I've been incredibly lucky in the last 2 days. I've been here just getting used to the reserve a little bit, and I've already seen 3 different leopards, so I am incredibly happy that I get to share this beautiful place with you. I think it's probably the best place you can be. So we're actually not supposed to get any rain today, but I believe we might have some coming in the next few days. You can see the clouds are building on the horizon there. And what I'm hoping this does is makes the predators a lot more active, because this wind... Brilliant. This wind is going to make the predators a lot more active. It's a massive advantage. But while I hope to find any tracks of this female leopard, I'm going to send you over to Pridelands on your bushwalk, where Mike is really excited to say good morning.
It was a cold and stormy night here at Pridelands, and as you can see, hyenas have made a kill last night. We haven't found the carcass yet, but the drag mark goes all the way across this road. So there's a lot of potential excitement this morning. You also know that lions made a kill last night, not far from here. Hi everyone, my name is Mike Anderson, and behind the camera is BK. And this is Ecotraining's Pridelands Conservancy, where we are going to spend the morning using our vehicle, because it's very windy. It's not a particular safe environment to walk far from the vehicle when it's very windy like this. So we're going to be using the vehicle to try and see if we can find out what happened here, and doing some short walks to try and point out some of the small signs of the bush. And also maybe if we get very lucky, we'll find that lion pride again. Last night they managed to kill a kudu. I don't think this hyena has anything to do with that. This is actually close to Leopard Dam. So remember there was that buffalo carcass that was in the dam. I think this actually might be leftovers from that buffalo carcass. They might have stashed it somewhere in the water or nearby, and they've dragged it out and taken it somewhere into the bush here. See, it's very dry and still windy. You can see the grass moving, and this is the soft gust. There's every now and again very, very hard gusts of wind, which make it tricky for us, especially when there's lions and hyenas in an area and we're trying to find the carcass. We don't want to be stumbling too close to them. If there's a sleeping lion with a full belly, he won't hear us coming. But whilst we work our way to try and find out what exactly has happened here, we'll send you over to Tristan, who's got a very big herd of buffalo.
We do indeed. They're all sliding past us now. We've had them all over quarantine. Unfortunately, they're now going into the thickets on our left, but it was really cool. We kind of parked and they all came straight towards us and kind of cascaded. It was almost like a buffalo migration taking place. You can see 2 bulls that are having a little argy-bargy next to us. They're just playing around. It's nothing too serious. Every now and then, though, you can hear their horns clattering together. Imagine how much power is in these guys and they actually want to fight. But there's a lot of them that are doing it. To the right here, there's another 2 sets of bulls that are also playing around and pushing and shoving each other. I think it's this cooler weather. Don't worry, Morgan. We're quite used to my head being in the way after the last 24 hours. So there's a lot of meat rolling through here. Glad Marcel's not here, Morgan. He'd be foaming at the mouth.
Salivating.
Exactly, salivating. The Afrikanivore would definitely be very happy to see this much meat rolling through. But you can see why the lions find them. The amount of noise and sound and kind of just general disturbance these guys make is easy for other animals to pick them up. We could hear them from far coming this morning. So if we can hear them, then you can bet that lions can hear them too. And they're moving quickly this morning. I think after yesterday's heat, this cooler weather has probably made them feel a lot more active. That coupled with the fact that they got attacked again last night, I think it's motivating them to cover a fair amount of ground pretty quickly. The way that they're heading is it looks like they're heading down towards sort of Treehouse Dam area. I reckon that they might pop out there somewhere. Treehouse Dam is, if the whole herd goes, will be absolutely filled with buffalo. I don't think there'll be space for all of these buffalo around that dam. If you look up onto the slope, you can actually see how they're still coming in a long line. It's not like this herd is done yet. You can still see lots of them coming through. And like I said, it almost looks like a little buffalo migration that's taking place. Been a long time since we've seen this many. Megan, they do. Buffaloes do command respect. It's not like they want to, but they do. They are not small. They are powerfully built, big sets of horns, and they have a temper and a character to match. So they are intimidating animals. I know a lot of people that get quite nervous when driving past these herds, because sometimes if you drive past the herds, you saw like when Janti went through, is that they move a little bit, but not far. They just kind of go onto the edge of the road. And you've got this big bull buffalo like staring at you as you pass them. It can be very intimidating for a lot of people. And that's because everyone knows, well, not everyone, but a lot of people know just how dangerous these guys are. While they're not going to be ruthless killers and come out and attack you just for the sake of attacking you, they are still animals that defend themselves when they feel under threat. Yes, Lapwings, we hear you. We're sorry that the buffalo are disturbing you. But they're not going to just attack everything. You know, they've got to have reason for it. It's when they feel threatened. And so in a car, that's very, very seldom, unless they're being pushed by lions or are just in bad condition. Sometimes you find males that are a bit grumpy because they have a horn wound or something like that. But for the most part, they're not that aggressive. But yeah, when they are, it's a scary thing to watch. I've witnessed firsthand a buffalo attacking a car. It wasn't my vehicle, but a guy that was parked next to me. Buffalo smashed into the side of the car. It was what we were talking about earlier with turning lights on. He turned his lights on and the buffalo ran into it and T-boned him. Luckily, he actually had a door on his car. We don't have doors on our Land Rovers, but they had a door on their car, and it meant that he didn't actually get himself into too much of a situation. I think there's a saddle-billed stork as well. Nice. Beautiful birds. Wonder where it's off to. Flying in that direction, maybe heading towards Baobab Dam. Alright, so our buffalo are rolling past. We're probably going to carry on, but somewhere else where you get beautiful big herds of buffalo in one of the most incredible landscapes is the Maasai Mara. And so for those of you that are interested in joining, you can have a look at the expeditions that will be taking place next year.
The Maasai Mara in Kenya is an iconic wilderness filled with life. Its inspirational beauty has captivated our hearts on WildEarth for many years. While this season of the world's greatest migration has been missed, WildEarth is preparing a spectacular comeback in 2022. For the first time ever, WildEarth will be running expeditions to Kenya's Maasai Mara throughout the 2022 migration season. Hosted by David Githu and Isaac Rotich, you could be a part of the team that shares the wildebeest migration with the world, live on WildEarth's daily safaris. If you're interested, then head over to our website to find out more.
Welcome back to Juma. So myself and Mpho were driving along. We're actually going towards the eastern boundary looking for those tracks, and we bumped into my favorite herbivore, a beautiful big herd of elephants. And you can see they're actually feeding. It doesn't look like there's much greenery here, but there's these brilliant pops of green as the bush willows are starting to regrow in this fire break. And so it actually kind of shows you how these animals will look anywhere for food. But I love in particular, especially in the colors that we're in at the moment, with that pop of green from the bush willows, you can really also see the little tusk of the elephant standing out so nicely, that white. And this calf actually has not moved from this bush willow in the last few minutes we've been here, where the other elephants are kind of moving around a bit. This little one has found a good spot and it's sticking with it. You can see it's only putting the greenery in its mouth, and then occasionally it'll put a branch in. So you can actually see the level where the greenery starts is just above this little elephant's back. So it's almost like everything that's below that level has already been fed on. So today is actually a particularly good day for, listen to that ripping sound, I love it. Particularly good day for elephants to be moving around because it's not so hot. It means they can move further, they don't have to worry too much about overheating with their big bodies. So that's why you can see there's no flapping of ears at the moment. The focus is just on feeding. Just listen to those sounds for a little bit of ripping those leaves off of that branch. Really looking for every little bit of greenery on that bush willow. So this herd is actually quite big. I can see at least 15 elephants around us. It is a breeding herd. So there are quite a few young calves here. This one is at least a few years old already. There's actually a tiny calf about to cross the road, Mpho. A very, very young elephant just in front of me. That's about to cross. And that is probably my favorite age. Look how it's just exploring everything, kicking the dirt. So it's not wanting to stray too far from the older elephant. Got a massive branch. So it always amazes me with the sounds in the background. You'd never guess that there are so many elephants here, but if you look, you can see there's just elephants everywhere in this section. So I'm definitely going to stay here as long as I can. I have missed the gentle giants of the bush so much. So I'm going to sit here and watch what the little ones do with their antics.
My name is Nomfundo Ndlovu, and I'm the Senior Project Manager for the WISA Schools and Youth Unit. I'm a qualified horticulturalist. I'm particularly passionate about supporting schools towards working through their sustainability journey and towards food sovereignty through our food gardening projects. A typical day in my work involves me overseeing our national projects and creating an enabling environment for schools to thrive and succeed in working towards self-reliance and sustainability, and really ensuring that no school gets left behind.
Being nominated to the top 5 and finally being here, for me it's an achievement. Tracks, I believe I did quite well, and the walk, and sometimes you often drag their feet forward. The storytelling as well, so yeah, I think that's where I see my strongest point. And then that was the opportunity of the scraping. I say the bedding and the call, definitely for me. It was quite a big challenge. Guiding is not all about the award that we have had, but in sharing the experience and continue to do what we have passion and love.
Something very, very interesting. I didn't plan this, but this is a scene rarely seen. This is what we call a journey of giraffe. So beautiful.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
So as you can see, we are still bumbling about and looking for anything interesting this morning. It's been a little bit quiet since we left the camp and headed in this direction. There are tracks of some lions and cubs that are heading back in an easterly direction to where we came from. But I think what we'll do is we'll stick to our plan of heading out west, go check one of the bigger watering holes, and if there's nothing out in that part of the reserve, then maybe we'll swing back towards, I think those lions are potentially going to be quite close to tented camp this morning. So we'll swing back in that direction a little bit later and see if we can't find them. But for now, we're going to continue heading out into the west. And who knows what we might find out there. I don't think this area of the property's been driven for a few days. So it's always nice to go and check new areas. You literally never know what you could find out here. And maybe potentially a different pride of lions out in the west. Maybe a herd of buffalo like Tristan's had. I'm actually quite jealous of Tristan this morning because we had a stage about 2 weeks ago where we had 3 different herds of buffalo on Ngala, but only for one day, and then they disappeared. And if you look here on the left as well, we have found some birds that are busy feeding. And if you have a look, you'll see relatively black hopping around, and the fact that there's quite a few of them indicates to us what species they are. Have a look at the little white wing panels as well. And then I don't know if you can see, but they've got little red bills. So these are red-billed buffalo weavers that we have managed to find this morning. And they are, as I said, feeding on the ground. Often you'll see them feeding together like this, looking for any signs of insects. But I think this time of year, with there not being as many insects around, they might be looking for seeds. And I always laugh when flocks of birds are feeding on the ground like this. They sort of do a technique called rolling, where the birds at the front will be feeding and the ones at the back, not as much as the quilias do, but they'll run forward. I feel like in my personal opinion, I think that they get jealous of some of the other birds being ahead and eating all the good seeds, so they then in turn rush to try and get to the front of the group. But you can imagine for these birds feeding on the ground like this, probably a little bit safer than if there were just one on their own. Victoria, I do enjoy birding. I think there are so many birds out here to see and watch and identify and listen for their calls, and in between looking for the bigger animals and mammals. I think birding is a great way to also enjoy the African bush. Just something else, I guess. But I do enjoy birding. So even on leave, sometimes don't purposely go on full birding leaves, but if there's a forest nearby or a day that I'm a little bit bored in Johannesburg, it's never a bad idea to head out to one of the wetlands or one of the national parks there. So what we'll do is we will leave these birds and continue out to the Waterhole in the west. But for now, we're going to send you over to Tessa, not Jonty, who's at Juma, and she has managed to find some elephants this morning.
Thank you so much, Nick. Good luck with your birding today. I really hope the weather's a little bit better at andBeyond Ngala than it is here for birding. But I'm still with this beautiful big herd of elephants, and these are two cheeky teenage males that are following behind the herd, and they are being quite destructive. They're wrestling each other through the bushes. They're actually about to cross behind the car, which is a bit tough. I'm going to try and swing for you. Oh, little old Wendy with her lack of power steering. It's been an adventure. All right, there we go. They're going to cross. Let's see if we can get you a view down the left. All right, there we go. And that's a brilliant question. What's the biggest herd I've ever come across? I would say probably over 100, maybe 150 elephants, but that was in with my family actually in the Kruger National Park, just doing our own self-drives. But it was a massive herd. It was incredible to see because everywhere you looked there were just elephants. And it was just mind-blowing to see how they moved almost silently as one, but you know they're communicating with each other. And yet you couldn't hear them at all. Just incredible because they are so big. I think they've got a bad reputation, which is a bit unfair. They're actually very gentle. Very, very gentle. All right. I'm going to move towards the rest of the herd. We'll see if we can find them. Letting another vehicle pass us. There we go. Oh, and we're about to have Small cross the road. All right, for now we'll just let them cross in front of us over there. She's actually got very decent tusks for a female. You can see she looks quite old. Her forehead is already starting to sink in a bit. All right, let's see if we can get you closer to some of those. So it's very interesting to watch with those young males that are kind of following the herd. They're probably on the verge of being kicked out already because they're at that age where they are being destructive. So they're starting to play fight with each other. And what that does is it can really put the little calves at risk. That's a very cute little one playing with a stick here. But I think you have to see the exact type of calf I'm talking about. So a very young one like this is obviously, it's sticking to the adults because it's still not really sure of itself, it's still learning to use its trunk. And if two big, brute teenage boys come along, you can imagine a little one like this getting in the way would not go down well. Definitely still learning to use the trunk. Don't go behind the tree. Roll you back a little. Slightly better. Right, so definitely still a little bit camera shy at that age. You can see it's trying really hard to wrap its trunk around anything it can and break it off to put it into its mouth. So at this age, pretty much everything is a new experience, and everything is just completely, almost overwhelming for a young elephant. Oh, see? So there was a game viewer that came past now with some guests, and you can see the little one got a little bit of a fright, gave a mini trumpet, which was adorable. Very hard to take a little one so seriously. But you can see it's already trying to figure out its size. It opened its ears straight away, tried to make itself look bigger. Little mini tantrum at the car. So already quite brave for such a young age. That being said, you can see the mom is right there. So that also gives it a little bit of extra courage to explore its size like that and its attitude. Sandra, baby elephants like this one will take at least 6 months to be able to do all of the basics with the trunk. So it copies what the adults are doing. You can see there it's putting its trunk out, trying to copy that movement of pulling something off the tree and put it into the mouth just like the adult did. But it's going to take a long time because there really are thousands of muscles in that little trunk, and you can see how short and thin it is compared to the adult on the left. So until the trunk is fully developed, probably at about 2.5 years old, it won't be able to do absolutely everything with that trunk. But the average is about 6 months until it can handle all the basics. It is quite a struggle, though, you can imagine, to have a nose that long. Trying to control something would be very, very difficult if you've never really had to do it before. It's like learning to walk for us. Animals are born with the instinct of walking pretty much straight away, where the trunk is an entirely different appendage. So it's like us learning to find our legs. It's actually very, very peaceful. You can see the adult is quite relaxed. So that's what gives the little one the confidence to still keep exploring even after that little tantrum at the new environment, a new stimulus. It's probably one of my favorite things about elephants, especially the calves, is when they do start exploring like that and you get to see those little tantrums. That's unbelievable. Look how she stripped the bark off of that. So you can see she puts it into her mouth and then she uses the tip of her trunk to rotate it. Can you see how she's rotating it in her teeth? She's stripping the bark off for that cambium layer where it holds the water and moves the water in the plant. And then she just spits out the rest. She doesn't need the extra roughage, she just needs the water, even on a cold day. There you can see on that marula tree, that beautiful bark, you can see some of the red scarring marks. That's actually from elephants like this herd that have used their tusks to try and break into that bark layer. Right, so I'm definitely going to stick around a little bit more, see if there are any more antics that come along from the calves. But I'm going to let you go on a different adventure for a while.
While Tessa is looking for Ellies, we're trying to see if there's any tracks for old Tortoise Pan and Inzutini. I got an update last night after show that they found them again coming east. They were exactly where I said they would be yesterday afternoon. They were at Red Dam, which is there in new water, and they're slowly coming east towards the boundary. So we've just gone past the turnoff that takes you to Red Dam. So I just want to check very carefully here because they might have crossed our side. But it is a long night and they could have gone a long way. And it looked like they were wanting to separate. So it's possible that they have, and both of them have gone and done their own thing. But it's just worth checking very carefully given what they did yesterday. And also the Nkuhumas were seen on this side yesterday, and with the buffalo herd, it just feels like a good place to check. So we're just bumbling slowly along the western boundary at the moment. No signs of anything crossing yet. and unfortunately we're running out of space a little bit. Who knows, maybe here in the next road, which is called Zebra Drive, they might have popped out somewhere here. It's difficult to see tracks though this morning as our light is very, very soft, so it makes looking for leopard tracks quite difficult. It's also quite a few cars that use this road very first thing in the morning, not only blue beetles but all kinds of other ones too. So sometimes the tracks get squished because of the car movements. I think they must, if they would have crossed by now somewhere, unless they went south. Not sure. Just keep looking and seeing, that's all we can do. Failing that, we might do a little loop back towards where we had Columbus tracks yesterday, see if we can't pick up any sign for her again this morning. Just want to check this area carefully before I do that, and off chance that something has popped across. Alright, onward we go. We shall keep checking and hopefully we'll have some luck and spot something along the way.
Perfect ambush predator. This tiny little spider is waiting for a fly to land close enough, unsuspecting, to grab it and have itself a meal. The flies themselves are actually having a meal as well. They are busy sitting on the remains of a small animal. We managed to find it. Didn't take too long, maybe about 150 meters from the car. We found the leftovers of not the buffalo, so it's a different animal that the hyenas chased into the water. This looks like it might have been a young kudu, or maybe even an adult Nyala. It's quite smelly, but still very, very soft. So it's been stashed in the water, and now the hyenas have dragged it out. And it's covered. There were no flies on it at all about 10 minutes ago when we first found it. But now there are loads and loads of flies all over it, and the spiders are waiting their chance to maybe, just maybe, catch one of these unsuspecting victims. So it always feels quite accomplished when you manage to find something that you were tracking from a drag mark. It's not the hardest thing to track, much easier than just looking for tracks of the animal itself. When there's a drag, there's so much more to look for. There's the moved grass, there's the bare patches of earth. So it's really quite a lovely thing to be able to do, to practice, to hone your skills of tracking. And hopefully, well, we're not going to track it anymore, but hopefully these hyenas have managed to take a small piece of it or some of it back to a den, because I know they've got lots of youngsters at the moment. Pridelands has 3 hyena dens that are all very active. In fact, we've just gotten a report about 5 minutes ago that the pride of lions that we hoped to find is busy sitting on top of one of those hyena dens at this very moment. So we might see if we can take a drive over there to investigate what's going on. Oh, the spider caught one. The spider caught a fly. How about that? It's a kill, yes. Action, look, the spider. I mean, the fly is trying to grip onto the side of that carcass to try and hang on, but it's too late. That spider will be injecting venom into the fly, slowly immobilizing it and digesting it from the inside. It will then use its fangs like hypodermic syringes to suck out all the insides. So it's amazing. We were actually discussing just now, BK and I, that these spiders must have a way to smell carcasses, because every time there's fresh dung or carcasses, there's always 2 or 3 of these spiders sitting on it. It's always the same species. So I wonder if they can have some type of sensory organ to be able to smell the carcass, to know exactly where it is. And they're so well camouflaged. I mean, you look at the little bits of grass around it, it's exactly the same color, and it's got stripes on it. It looks just like a little bit of grass. I wonder if the second spider will have as much success. Oh, there's a fly right next to it. Oh, lucky escape. But you can see how this spider holds its front legs up in order to capture. Oh, that fly is now definitely dead. The spider is able to manipulate it without worrying that it would fly away. Catherine, I'm glad you're enjoying it. It is super exciting, especially with the cameras that we use these days, able to get really up close and personal to the action. You know, normally we would just see a spider and it's kind of small and you think, oh, it's doing something, but I can't really see it. But now we can get right up close. We can really see exactly what's going on. The intricate little details. There's a whole world happening right beneath our feet in the undergrowth. And in many ways, it's as exciting or even more exciting than the large and charismatic scenes that we witness on those documentaries with lions hunting and leopards jumping on trees. When you get down to it, this is the fundamentals of life. Now, it'd be interesting to see if this spider... Oh, he's taking his prey somewhere more sheltered. Why? It's very windy. It doesn't want to lose his prey or get eaten by something else itself. So it's very clever to go and hide away. Well, that was fantastic, and I'm glad we managed to come to a conclusion of this little story. But we'll send you, in the meantime, over to some elephants.
How lucky are you, Mike, that you got to see a little kill happening there? That is amazing. I'm quite jealous, actually. Although I can't complain. It's like I'm seeing the bush with new eyes after being away for a while. So I've been watching this little family. It's almost kind of separated off to the left of the main part of the herd. And this is a different calf to the one I was watching earlier. You can see it scratching on a branch right now. It's got a tummy itch. So at the moment we've actually kind of got the smelly end of the elephant herd. We've got the butt end moving away from us. But that little one is more than entertaining enough. Look how it's scratching. So I don't know what your favorite thing is about elephants, or if there's any particular favorites you have with an elephant, whether it's an age or a sighting or an experience. But I was saying to him, poor little one like that, a tiny calf that's still learning and scratching and so clumsy, is probably one of my favorite things in the world. Because I'm a clumsy person. I trip on flat surfaces, and I feel like a baby elephant just sums me up so well. So clumsy and not really so sure of the footing on anything. Kind of go at things head first and just hope it works out. It's actually incredible to see how well, especially the adults, blend in with the color of the bush at the moment. It's a lot drier than I thought it would be. I think you forget after being away for a while how dry it gets. And it actually blows my mind how dry it's been in the bush since I've been back. But the elephants seem to be flourishing. None of them are in bad condition at all. They're still carrying on with their day. I think they're just very grateful, as I am as well, after the heat yesterday, that it's a nice, cool, overcast day. So the slightly younger one has been adamant about kicking up a storm here. It's trying to dig out the roots underneath all of these bush willows. So this is actually the last straggler of the whole herd. And she's been digging like crazy just to get those little bits right at the bottom of the tree where there's the most water. You can hear her chewing. It's an unbelievable sound to think that, you know, an elephant is so big we can hear it chewing the bark off of a branch from here. I just find it incredible. That's such a big animal. I mean, of course, they can be very clumsy. But they are so careful, and they know exactly where they're going, exactly where they're stepping, what noise it's going to make. And they can be so gentle and quiet. Oh, can you hear the woodpecker in the background? That's amazing. There are actually a lot of birds out today considering the cool weather. That woodpecker definitely wants to be heard this morning. It's amazing. You think you know how much you miss something, and then it really hits you the first time you see things while you're here. And this is the first proper elephant sighting I've had in 7.5 months, with tiny little calves and actually being able to spend time with them. And it kind of hits you how much you've missed it properly in the last 7 months. Look at that tail, just wagging along. It's actually a perfectly framed elephant between two branches there, two tree trunks. So I'm pretty sure this herd of elephants is going to keep walking. It's going to keep moving, probably towards dry riverbeds. Tswalu Dam is actually just on the other side of this ridge, so maybe they'll head there when it gets a little bit hotter today. But they're just going to keep feeding consistently as they go, especially with it being so dry. It's very important. So I wouldn't be surprised if this herd covers quite a distance today, just looking for food. The wind is picking up beautifully, actually. The elephants must be very happy to have a breeze blowing over them for a change. I think elephants are a lot more relaxed on cooler days as well, because they can actually afford to slow down a little bit. They can afford to kind of just take it easy. They don't have to actively look for shade. They don't have to position with their bums into the wind. They can just keep going with their day. And I think the little ones in particular have a lot more energy on days like today, so it's a really good learning day for them, not only with the different smells coming through in the air, but just because you now don't have to sleep underneath mom's tummy in the shade, just to try and keep yourself cool. It's a great day to be learning and adventuring with your trunk. Alright, so I'm going to leave these elephants to carry on, and I'm sure we'll catch up with them a little bit later. I'm going to head off and see if I can find those tracks of that female leopard here in the east of Juma.
Hi, we are Yaku and Milani. We are from Gauteng in South Africa. We started watching WildEarth last year during the level 5 lockdown, and we've been watching ever since.
Being in nature is one of the greatest feelings. We absolutely love it. Our favorite thing about WildEarth is that the concept is so amazing. We have the benefit of having a wildlife safari in the comfort of your home, especially when you're not allowed to go out. Being part of the Wildlife Explorer program gives us a sense of giving back and contributing to nature. It just makes us feel good because we love it so much. We are so excited to be visiting Ngala, It is obviously, I think for most people, an absolute dream to visit the Maasai Mara. We can't wait to go.
Thank you very much for this amazing prize, WildEarth.
WildEarth Explorers. It's in your nature.
Civilized just found some black rhino tracks. A mother with a calf. The calf tracks are so small. They're somewhere here in this area, but it's too dense to walk this way. So we're going to walk around where it's not so dense. Let's hope we get lucky.
And sometimes you often drag their feet forward and deposit the scent mark, which is that what they use to patrol their territory.
We managed to get a glimpse of the black rhino, but for safety reasons, of course, we held back and we walked a different way, but it was such a fantastic experience. We didn't just focus on the big things, because it's not all about the big things. We focused on army ants and lots of dung. Civilized did an incredible job, but it's up to the judges now.
This is a battle of two great carnivores of the African wilderness. Whew. Whoa! You don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth.
Well, we're still bumbling along and managed to come across a few impalas at Tswalu Dam that were looking quite alert and sort of circumspect about life, but they've started to calm down since we've sat here for a little bit. In fact, there was even one that let off a little snort. I don't know if it was just us arriving and the fact that there's a bit of wind that's blowing, that they're a little unsure about approaching the water. You never know, also maybe something else has passed through here a little bit earlier. We'll check it out. I didn't see any tracks down below here, but I'll check on the road up ahead. Often if there are leopard tracks here, they come from that northern side and then they bend back towards the east. We know the Djuma Pride hasn't crossed, and the mating pair also didn't come across. We checked very carefully on Triple M, so neither of those animals made it onto Juma during the course of the night. So now we're going to Plan B. Plan A has failed, but Plan B is where we're at now. So they're just coming down for a drink. I think a lot of the animals must be very happy about this morning's weather after what they experienced yesterday. It was extremely warm yesterday afternoon. A bit of cooler conditions is quite welcome. We're supposed to get rain tomorrow, actually. I hope it doesn't rain too much. It's one thing for it to be cool, but as we all know, I'm not a huge rain fan when it's when you're out in an open vehicle. It's not as pleasant as one would think it would be. It really isn't ideal. Why are you laughing, Morgan? You guys get to sit in the back there with those roofs on and happy as Larry.
What roof do we have on the back here?
Oh, the one that we put on when it rains. Have you not seen? When we turn our cars into little Flintstone mobiles. These cars always remind me of the Flintstones when they have their little roofs on. It's like a little boxy car with this roof. And the way Wendy was running yesterday, we would have at some point probably had to drill a hole in the floor and run with it rather than actually using an engine. Anyway, pilots seem to be moving off. They don't seem to be too interested in what's going on, so I think we'll carry on ourselves. And I agree, it is calming watching impalas. It's especially now, this time of the year, where they're not fighting with each other. You know, when it's rutting season, it's a little bit more chaotic and they chase each other and there's lots of grumbling and groaning. At least at this time of the year, they're fairly decent to one another, so you don't get that same kind of aggression that takes place. Just want to check here carefully, just to see. if anything came down. So yeah, watching them is always peaceful, especially when they come down to water like this and they're just having a little drink, and you can hear the francolins and the doves in the background. It makes for a nice little setting. No tracks here, just Impala tracks. Just Impalas and a lot of buffalo dung, which is about to happen again. This whole area is going to get covered shortly. Alright, we shall carry on past these Impalas. In the meantime, let's send you across to Tessa, see how she's getting on.
Welcome back, everybody. So I am actually currently I'm driving north on it's called Cheetah Cut Line, so it's pretty much the easternmost part of Juma, and those tracks of that female leopard were in here on the left coming south. So what I'm doing is just checking the boundary very, very slowly to see if there's any tracks of her crossing out. I wouldn't think so, because there are beautiful little drainage lines, dry riverbeds just on the left hand side, which is actually where I'm going to go next. I'm going to loop around there. And so I'm hoping, with it being so cool, that she might still be on the move. I wouldn't really like to try and give Tristan a run for his money with his leopard finding abilities here at Juma, but I would like to say I've found a few at least. So I'm hoping that she is somewhere in this area still. There are some really big, beautiful marilla trees in this area, which are perfect for a leopard, and some impalas, which is great for food. I've seen quite a few steenbuck as well. And with it being overcast and cold, and a little bit windy, I'm thinking that she'll probably be around, maybe moving. So I'm going to head in this way, see if I can get into one of these little drainage lines and try and find some tracks of her. But in the meantime, I'm going to send you over to Nick at one of my favorite watering holes at andBeyond in Ngala.
So while Tessa continues to search for the elusive leopard this morning, we are at this waterhole called Alfred Dam, pretty much our biggest waterhole on Ngala, and as you can see, there's not much around. We did have two wildebeest here a little bit earlier, but they've moved off into the thickets at the back. There is one lone hippo, which just in the top right of picture almost looks like a rock in the water. And I'm guessing because it's a hippo all on its own, it's very difficult to see from here, but it's more than likely a large male hippo or a bull hippo. And this is probably his territorial waterhole that he will defend with his life. I'm sure he's been out feeding throughout the evening last night and early this morning. Maybe with it being a little bit cooler, he might have come back to the water a little bit later than normal. Especially now because it's winter as well. These animals have got to move larger distances to find the food that they need. Imagine all the other animals coming down to the waterhole, feeding into the waterhole, drinking, and then feeding away from the waterhole as well will deplete a lot of the grass that hippo will be after this morning. So he probably moved quite a distance last night, and now he's just resting in the dam. You can see how he's not moving there, quite close to the bank. I'm pretty sure it is shallow. Oh, and there, if you look to the right, another hippo's nostrils just popped out and back under. And I'm sure that they are lying on the floor of this waterhole. With there not being too much going on this morning, I'm just going to keep quiet for a little while and let you enjoy some of the sounds, or not really so much the sounds, but more the quiet that we are experiencing this morning. might be able to hear some of the red-breasted swallows that are calling above us. And I just had a look on that little island. There is a lone crocodile out of the water, which we didn't spot earlier. So it might be a bit tricky to find. A little bit further left. And there we go, at the green grass there. You can just see the tail even further left. There we go. I think it was Marjorie asking if this waterhole ever dries up, and yes, it does, if you can believe it. I mean, a waterhole this large, I think it was not last year but the year before, it was almost completely dry. There was just a big pile of mud in the middle of the watering hole, and that meant that these crocodiles, or this crocodile in picture, had to move to another watering hole where there was water, and it would have been outside of Ngala. There are a few permanently pumped waterholes on our western side and on our northern side in the Tswalu Private Nature Reserve that the crocodile might have headed towards. But it was interesting seeing it so dry. There were lots of catfish or barbel in the mud, and we saw quite a few elephants coming down to use the mud to cool off. But it was interesting to see it dry. I've also heard, before my time at Ngala about 10 years ago, it is a beautiful scene indeed, Olivia, and quite nice that we've got a croc and a hippo this morning. But as I was saying, before my time, I've heard stories where this waterhole was completely full. So all the grass that you would have seen around the banks of the water's edge were all underwater, and even left of us, or left of where the picture is, there's another smaller watering hole which has got a very interesting name. It's called Small Dam, and the water was from this waterhole all the way over to the next, and you couldn't even drive between the two. So maybe this year, if we get some really big rains, which I think quite a few of us are expecting considering the amount of rain that we got last year, who knows, maybe January you'll see Alfred Dam being as full as it was sort of 10 years ago. But this waterhole is a nice scene always, even when it's a little bit windier and there's not much going on, an overcast day like today. It's just a wide open space that makes it so lovely. I think our plan is from here, because there's not too much going on in this part of the reserve, we'll slowly start making our way back towards the central parts of Ngala and towards the Tswalu River, and potentially go see if we can't find those lions that we had tracks of.
Welcome back to Juma, everybody. So I've actually just stopped. I'm about to turn back towards one of the drainage lines, and I'm just listening for any sounds at the moment. Any Impala's alarm calling, any bird's alarm calling, just to see if there might be any predator movement here. But there's a beautiful red-billed buffalo weaver nest that's been abandoned at the top of this tree. So let's just take a little while to listen and hear if we can pick up any movement of predators. There are quite a few different birds calling. With the wind, those calls are traveling quite well. But none of them sound like alarm calls. Very relaxed Burchell starlings and other birds calling. So I wouldn't think there would be anything around here.
There's a deep, dark and scary dig in the side of this mound over here that's very fresh. You can actually see tracks just in front over here of some sort of small mammal, and I suspect, looking at those tracks, that this might have been dug by a honey badger. And if anyone of you has ever heard of a honey badger or seen one, I'm sure you have if you've been watching the show. They are potentially very dangerous little creatures, and there is probably one right now living inside this mound. That's why I'm keeping myself away from the entrance, and BK has got himself tucked behind a small bush just to make sure that he doesn't get in any sort of trouble. Honey badgers are known to be very ferocious. It's unlikely to come out here during the day unless I would try and stick my hand in there and dig as if I was trying to catch it. Then it would come out very aggressively, chasing with very sharp teeth and claws and tough skin, able to defend itself very, confidently. I mean, I've seen lions backtracking away from honey badgers before that were sticking their noses in where they shouldn't have been. Anyway, it's very clear that this is quite a deep hole. You can see how much soil has been excavated. So somewhere about where I am, here there'll be the big chamber. I mean, it might not have been dug originally by a honey badger, but maybe by a pangolin. That's too small to be an aardvark. Maybe a porcupine dug this originally, but there's no quill marks here, and there's no multiple padded footprints. So I think this is just a single pad. It must be a honey badger, I think. I mean, we haven't seen any quills around here, which normally there would be if there was a den site being used by a porcupine, and so it sort of stands to reason that this must be honey badger. And we saw a couple of honey badgers a couple of days ago in this area, or not far from here, so it could very well be that exact two honey badgers. It looked like a mother and a youngster. And they don't just use mounds like this or holes like this. They can live underneath fallen trees, in thick bushes, They can live in a variety of rocky areas. I mean, if you look around here, you can see that there's lots of rocks around here. So it's really the perfect place for them to hunt for things, because we've been seeing lots of rocks that have been turned over. Let me come around that side there, BK, a bit closer to you, so I can point out a few things to the viewers. So there's a lot of rocks already. In fact, there's one just over here behind us. So here is a rock that's been turned over. Okay, you can see because there's mud underneath it, or on top of it. So this mud should normally be underneath. So this might have been something like that before, somewhere down there. And it's likely that, honey badgers eat mostly grubs and termites, and they'll eat snakes, lizards. They'll eat anything they can find. And now, this time of year, when it's very cold, very windy and very dry, a lot of those creatures are hiding underneath logs and stones and things. And honey badgers are incredibly powerful little animals. So they will be going along and turning over rocks all over the place to sniff underneath, looking for scorpions, looking for lizards, even snakes. It's really, really cool to see. They are aggressive little hunters. So hopefully we'll get to see more tracks and signs of them somewhere around here. But for now, probably going to head back to the vehicle and move to a new area, searching for more interesting little tidbits for you. In the meantime, we'll send you over to Tristan, who's still on a search for a leopard.
We picked up tracks where those impalas were for a female leopard. She drank at Tswalu Dam and then she moved south from there. So I'm just checking Firebreak and Gary Main quickly to see if she hasn't crossed out. Which leopard it is, I'm not 100% sure. Could be Tlalamba or it could be Shadulu. Apparently Shadulu was on Hofmann's coming north yesterday, so it could be her kind of crossing in and then coming down towards Treehouse. But exactly where those impalas were staring when we first got is where we found the tracks coming down, so I don't think she's that far away. The tracks in the where she drank are pretty good, so we're just gonna have to try and find her. There's a martial eagle as well. Have a look at that while we listen out a little bit. Just trying to find a nice clear spot for Morgan to actually film it, because there's 1,000,001 branches in the way. There we go. I think that's going to be... Are you good there, Morgan? Oh, it's contagious. John T's given it to us. The stalling of vehicles. All right. All set now for our martial eagle that is hunkered down on the top of a marula tree. It doesn't have anything in its talons, it's just looking out. It looks like a bit of a ridiculous tree to be sitting on. There's a breeze that's blowing and it's found the smallest of branches to try and perch on, which is weird. For such a big eagle, you'd think it would find something a little bit more stable to sit and enjoy, but I guess anything is good as long as it allows you to take it easy. It looks like it's watching something quite intently though, doesn't it? It's not like it's looking around. This time of the day they often are hunting, and in conditions like this, while there's no thermals, it will make a lot of their favorite prey very sluggish. Remember, these guys are big hunters of things like monitor lizards, and in cold weather like this, the monitors often aren't as quick, and it makes it much easier for them to catch them. So maybe that's what it's watching. Could be watching Franklin, guinea fowl. They'll eat those too. Even steenbok. Nice to see though. You know, it's one of our very iconic birds that we get down in this part of the world. It's part of the big six of birds and is a massive eagle, and they're capable of, as we're saying, hunting quite large prey animals. So things like little baby impalas, steenbok are part of the menu for them. They've even been seen to take things like wild dog puppies, hyena cubs, even lion cubs, I think, have been recorded to have been taken by martial eagles. So they're pretty ferocious predators, and anything that is remotely open to kind of them getting to it, and as long as it's not bigger than they are, they'll try and overpower it and grab it. So it's a pretty special bird to see. I wonder if it's got its body position like that because of the wind, just to counteract the wind. You can see how the tail is moving to keep the balance. Exactly, James. I mean, you know, you've watched for many years that martial eagles we don't get them all the time. So it is a treat when we get to see them. They're beautiful, beautiful birds, and we don't actually have that many here. These days I've been seeing this bird, which is adult, and then there's a juvenile that's also hanging around, but more on the northern side of Juma. The only place that I know of them nesting in this area, there's a nest for martial eagles on the Manyeleti riverbed, very close to Sylvan Camp, not far from there. So maybe the juvenile that we're seeing is coming from that area. Also, as the crow flies from here to there, it's very close. It's not a long way at all for an eagle. So maybe it's this pair that we're seeing now venturing around. It'll be this time of the year that they start to breed again and start to lay eggs, in order to have their little ones. So I'd imagine maybe it's the same birds, and that's why we keep seeing these juvenile birds kind of coming through Juma and then leaving. It could be the reason, but I don't know of any other nests around the area. I haven't seen any on Buffelshoek or Torchwood or even the eastern blocks, so only one that I know of. All right, little martial eagle, enjoy your morning. We're going to carry on. I don't want to waste too much time here, because if it is Shadulu or Tlalamba, which is the two options given Kara's in Buffelshoek, both of those cats move quickly, so they could easily cross out pretty easily cross out before we even get there. So I want to try and just check carefully. Anita, I think you and many others, Shadulu is always a firm favourite. Beautiful cat, that. Feel bad for her a little bit late. She's had a bad run when it's come to trying to raise cubs. You know, she did well with Kara, but since then it's been a little bit downhill. So, you know, it would be nice to pick her up and spend some time with her and then see her kind of coming right and having a cub again. She's certainly battled against the elements in many ways, and it's interesting because she, like Shadow, she occupies a very similar territory to Shadow, and is having the same issues that Shadow had, which is lots of hyenas, lots of male leopards, and makes life for a female that much harder to deal with. Some porcupine tracks going over the road last night. So where she would have come out, given where the last track we had would be right somewhere where I am now. So I can see lots of hyena tracks here, but no leopard track yet. Just want to go very slowly in case she's gone straight over. If she hasn't, then I think we need to check Weaver's Nest and see if maybe she's cut through onto Weaver's Nest. If it's Shadulu, then normally the cut is more back and west. If it's Tlalamba, it's more south and east that she goes through the block, and she should then pop out on Weaver's Nest. Shadulu doesn't really come this way. She tends to head that way. And Sabui wouldn't have gone that far north. She comes in from the bottom here to Treehouse Dam and then bends back around. So depending on which way these tracks end up going could dictate who it is. But things are so upside down at the moment, and these cats are walking in such odd areas, the females that is, it's not as easy at the moment to know who is around. Alright, I'm just going to carry on down here and just check, go up Weaver's Nest. If nothing there, then we'll go back to the last tracks and see if we can just jump off for a little bit and get a clearer direction as to where they've gone.
We're in the center of the reserve. It's a much more open area, so a completely different experience. It's also in the afternoon, so just a little bit hot, shall we say. We're following some lion tracks, and then we found the scat of a lion cub. So we didn't see the lions, but we decided to leave the area. It was getting a bit too dense and a bit too thick. So we've come all the way down to the Waterhole to have a little break, and then we're going to keep walking and see what else we can find. And TJ himself actually reminded us at the start of the walk that when you're on the vehicle, it's all about observing. But when you're on a walk, it's all about immersing yourself in nature, being part of the ecosystem. And that's exactly what happened today.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is the call of desperation with a cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops! Oof!
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth Daily.
Welcome back. I'm very happy to see you still with me. I've given ourselves a little bit of a stop here. I'm just having a look. We're very close to a drainage line on the left-hand side, and this is the area where those leopard tracks were called in yesterday. So it was worth a try to just stop and have a listen. I haven't heard any other birds alarm calling or anything, but it's just such a beautiful scene with the dramatic clouds in the background and these big trees. And I was hoping, with the drainage line being just behind that big tree you can see on the left, that there might be some movement or activity here. I'm in quite a sheltered spot, so there's not much wind, just a light breeze. And I've taken it upon myself to see if I can challenge myself to beating Tristan to a leopard this morning, which is a very, very big challenge, I know. Maybe I shouldn't have said it on TV, because now you can hold me to that. But I'm quite excited to see. We're in a really stunning area. I just keep thinking, you know, there's so many beautiful big trees, termite mounds, riverbeds. So I'm hoping I get to find you a leopard. Majority of the birds that I've heard here are things like hornbills. So there aren't many other birds around. I was hoping to get some more alarm calls in. Alright, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep going up here. I'm heading to a dam, see if I can find any tracks around the dam, and then I'm going to be coming back along the drainage lines in my attempt to beat Tristan to a leopard. Speaking of Tristan, I'm going to send you back to him, because he, I think, has now accepted that challenge, and he's on a serious mission to find one too.
Well, when it comes to looking for leopards, I'm always up. But, I mean, we can do this. We'll see how it goes. I feel like it's an unfair advantage already, given that we have tracks already and Tessa doesn't. But you never know. Let's try. Let's see who gets there first. I can't find any tracks coming out of the block, so either we've driven past this cat or I've missed a track somewhere, so I'm going back to the last tracks to go and figure this out. Because I don't know which direction she's gone. I'm sure we weren't that far behind this leopard. The fact that we got here and impalas were all staring, and they just snorted once as we turned off, they snorted, and then they kind of all went back to normal, and the track that comes down looks pretty fresh. So I don't think we were that far behind. Could be anywhere here. If it's, like I say, any of these cats, they like to lie up in these little thickets, particularly on this right-hand side, so this little drainage line. And often find when Kalamba comes this side, she likes to get into this drainage line and can be completely invisible. You'll never know that she's even here unless you follow her footprints, and even then she can often just hide in these little grassy thickets and wait for you to kind of pass and then come out. Hello, little squirrel. Catherine, how old was I when I saw my very first leopard? I must have been, I think 4 or 5, somewhere there, with my grandparents in Kruger. I remember actually that the first memory I have of seeing a leopard, I don't know if I saw one before that, but the first memory I have of seeing a leopard, I remember it was, we were sitting with lions on a buffalo kill on the Sabi River, and we looked up, and over the river across on the other side a leopard was coming down a game path, and I remember clearly it dropping into the Sabi River and then disappearing in the reeds, which was very cool. So yeah, that's the earliest memory I have, and it was on the Skukuza Low Sabi Road, on the Sabi River there. So it's the first memory I have of seeing a leopard, but might have seen before that. You know, when you're a child, sometimes you forget certain things, and I'm getting old now, so you know, the memory isn't what it was. Why are you chuckling in the back there, Morgan? Jeez. Morgan's found himself again, everybody, don't worry. It was a momentary lapse. I think the coffee hadn't quite kicked in yet. Yeah, heat stroke from yesterday. We've hydrated him and now he's laughing and being his normal chirpy self again. So if any of you were panicking, which didn't seem like a lot of you were, he's okay. I was very panicked. I was worried about you. I thought maybe you were heartbroken because Jonty left you. That's what I was like, how am I going to make it up to this guy that Jonty's just gone and decided to, rather spend time with his family than with Morgan. But, glad to see you back.
Thanks. It's good to be back.
Alright, so where she drank was just here on my left, and then it looked like she bent straight south. But what I want to just check is there's a drainage that runs here, so I want to just do a loop around the top road and then come back down in case she got into the bent round into the drainage and just went along, because I can't find any tracks on that road, nothing on the Firebreak, nothing on Gowrie Main, nothing on Weaver's Nest. I'll show you the tracks now as well. You can see where I was walking around. Let's see if I can find you a nice one, Morgan. Of course, now when I'm looking for a nice track, I can't find one. Let's go back a bit. There we go, Morgan. How about that one? Anna Marie, yes, I came across a snake the other day in the talons of a tawny eagle. Poor thing had just been murdered by a tawny. It was still struggling. Yes, that one is perfect. So that is a very clear female leopard track in the nice soft substrate that is this road. Nice track, fresh. I mean, there's been a bit of wind through the night, so they're not too badly disturbed. I don't think this cat is that far, but we'll hopefully find her somewhere around here. The good news is it doesn't seem like she's crossed out, so that's always a positive sign. But we'll try and figure it out. But yeah, snakes-wise, the only one that I've physically seen is in the talons of a tawny, but there's lots of tracks of snakes after from the heat. They're moving around all over the place, so lots of tracks for them. Anyway, we're going to carry on. We're going to try to track this leopard down. Hopefully we'll have some luck. In the meantime, let's send you across to Nick. Maybe he can remember when he first saw a leopard.
Alright everyone, welcome back. So you can see we're still making our way down towards the central parts of the reserve. Not too much going on still, but just relaying on Tristan's first leopard. Quite remember the first leopard that I ever saw, but I think it was probably when I was still very young, at a place called Nitseri, which is in the Umbabat Private Nature Reserve, not too far from here. But a story that I can remember is the first time I saw leopard when I was on foot. And it was also in a reserve just north of here called the Tswalu Private Nature Reserve. And we were staying at a little cottage. And there was a guy who was working for us at the time, or helping us around the camp, called Rexon. And the one morning, early on in the morning, it was about 6 o'clock, just letting some Impalas pass. About 6 o'clock in the morning, my mom and dad and my sister were still fast asleep, and I heard the kudus barking, and Rexon came and he saw me that I was awake, and he said, "Come, let's go." And we went for a little bit of a drive, and then he heard where the kudus were barking, and he immediately thought, okay, this leopard must be moving down towards the river. I think my dad might have actually been with us. And then as we were driving along, we saw the tracks of the leopard crossing over the road, and we hopped out and walked a little bit, maybe for 50 odd meters, and as we got to the bank, we looked down and there was a very large male leopard staring up at me. And that was an amazing incredible. Super much time in the bush when I was young.
Right, so it seems like a few little technical issues at Ngala, so you're back with us. We haven't gotten very far since you last saw us, as you can imagine. It's only been about 1 minute. So we kind of followed where the tracks were coming from. They came from this side down. So now what I'm checking is just to see if she didn't come this way. I mean, obviously, if we were on foot, it would be a lot easier. I could jump off and track them properly. But alas, we don't have that option right now, so we're going to need to use a vehicle to do this, which is easier said than done. It requires me to lean out of the car quite regularly in order to try and pick up anything. Now, if she did come back this side, then she wouldn't pop out just yet. This is still a little bit north. The big game path that we're looking for is, I'll show you guys when it comes up. It's ahead of us here. So she should come out on that path if she does come out. And then from there, I'm interested to see where she goes, because if she cuts back this way, the track looks like it comes from that side. And if she does go back that side, could be an indication that she maybe has a kill somewhere. So worth just double checking. So here's the one game path that we need to check, but this one is still, I don't think, the right one. I think she's going to come out on the next one if she did come this way. But the reason there's a game path is there's a mud wallow here, so you often find the elephants moving from there to here. It's just delightful that this road is so hard at the moment after last week's rain. Nothing. Alright. So it should be just on the other side of this little knobthorn thicket that we're rolling through. Is where the path that I would expect her to come out on if she did come this way. So it's just so weird. Kind of tracks go to the dam there and then they go south, and then from there nothing. We don't find them on any of the roads at all. So here's the other one. That's big and bulky, but I still don't see any tracks for her coming out. But this one goes directly to the dam, and then there's another one further south as well. But yeah, nothing here. Only impalas. Alright, let's just keep going here and just see. Maybe she pops out a little bit further ahead of us. We'll just have to keep persevering, and hopefully eventually some luck will come our way, or we'll pick up a track and actually find her from that and use a bit of skill. Either way, we'll give it a bash.
Have stopped here just next to the road, and you can see there is a enormous red bush willow that has been ripped out of the ground by what I'm guessing would be a very large elephant. I mean, have a look at the roots and how many roots and how many attachments this bush willow had into the ground. It must have been quite a mission for the elephant to get this out of the ground, and I'm assuming the reason why he stripped it out wouldn't be so much for the leaves but for the roots. Exactly what we're looking at. You can actually see where the parts of the roots have been broken off and fed on. It looks like a little bit of bark that's been stripped as well. Jan, if you zoom out a little, if you zoom out a little bit, just in the bottom of picture there's another little bird hopping around, sort of middle left now, and it's again a little white-browed scrub robin that is very willing again this morning. And you can actually see the really prominent streaking on the chest today. There we go. Stunning little bird. Same species as the one we had hopping around. Oh, and off it goes. It always seems to go like that on the show. As soon as you get a bird in frame, it decides to fly off. But it was nice to have it in picture for a little while. But we just thought it'd be quite nice to stop and have a look at this enormous bush willow that had been pulled out. And I'm assuming that the scrub robins are around here looking for some insects to feed on. And you can imagine this to become really nice in summer, because there's going to be lots of green grass growing below this tree. It's nice cover for a lot of animals. So even though the elephant has killed this tree and pulled it out the ground, he is providing little habitats and homes for a variety of other small mammals, birds and insects as well. It's always nice to stop for some of the smaller things as well.
Welcome back. I've taken a bit of a gamble and I've come up to Buffelshoek Dam looking for a leopard. I'm trying really hard to beat Tristan to this one. But I found myself a pod of hippos. And they are having a very relaxed time in the water. So I thought I'd just spend a few minutes here, see if I can hear any form of, well, I'm dreaming of a leopard sawing, but I don't know if I'll hear it or not. But just kind of looking for any signs here. And I'm just loving watching how content the hippos are. It's actually a really good day for them to even be out the water a little bit, which again might be wishful thinking. But I'm actually quite happy I've seen 4 hippos here so far. I thought there was only one when I arrived. There's actually quite a stark colour difference between those 2 hippos. So the one kind of facing to the left has got a very pink section around its eye, which is quite normal for a hippo. The one on the right, though, seems to be a much darker shade of pink. Unusual. Not that it makes any form of difference to survival, just something that caught my eye. I have a bit of a strange eye for arty things, so colours catch my eye. So the one on the left definitely looks like the male, where you can just see pretty much his nostrils now, and his moustache. Got some very spiky hairs there. He seems to be the biggest in this pod. Angled down like that, I wonder if he's not just touching the bottom with his back legs, but his front legs are still up. Or he could just be flat and he's a little bit lazy, so he's just angled his head a bit upwards. I love it when they pop up out of the water like that and flick their ears to get the water out. Yeah, that's definitely the dominant male. He's much bigger than the others. So I haven't seen any babies here yet, but I'd love to if there are. Mandy, hippos' predators vary. It obviously depends a little bit on the age of the hippo and the size of the hippo, but majority of the time you'd be looking at things like lions, hyenas, and actually humans that would predate on hippos. A smallish calf would have a much higher risk of being attacked. So things like hyenas, I have seen hyenas take down a young hippo. Lions, that it would also, give it a chance, but it's actually quite tough to predate on them because they spend most of the day in the water, and because they are so big, hippos are actually potentially quite dangerous because they have got very big tusks, very big mouths. They're actually very fast. So when they are out feeding at night, the only things they would really encounter would normally be things like maybe hyenas, lions and leopards, because those predators would also be out at night. But it would take a lot of guts to go after a hippo. A big pride of lions, though, would definitely give it a try. I've also seen hyenas take down quite a large rhino, so it's definitely not out of the question that they would be predated on by any of those predators. I would think maybe just a leopard wouldn't be so common. So while we continue here with these beautiful hippos, let's take a look at the wonderful prize that you can win with andBeyond Phinda.
Calling all WildEarth explorers, we have a new and frankly awesome travel prize for you to win. andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve encompasses an impressive 28,000 hectares of protected wildlife land in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. As you have seen on WildEarth, andBeyond Phinda showcases one of the continent's finest game viewing experiences and is well known for close-up sightings of the elegant yet elusive cheetah as well as the rare black rhino. Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer before the 16th of September and you and a friend could be heading to the magnificent Phinda Mountain Lodge, where you will spend 3 nights escaping the real world at this ultimate safari location. WildEarth explorers, it's in your nature.
Very cool. Don't forget to sign up to WildEarth Explorers to get a chance to win one of these cool prizes and go and visit some of us at the lodges. But in the meantime, I'm just holding on to this bit of leadwood here because the wind is extremely strong and I'm actually a bit nervous that I might blow away. We came to the dam in order to see if there was any interesting stuff here. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this hurricane has arrived. Even the Egyptian geese decided to fly away. But since we were standing next to this leadwood, which gives us good shelter, I mean, not really great shelter, but at least we can hold on to it, we noticed was that there was some fairly fresh signs of an elephant. And you can see it's very tall, almost reaching all the way up to that first little broken branch there. So I'm about, 6 foot tall, and so that is twice as tall as me. So what is that, 12 feet? What is that, meters? 4 meters? 3.5 meters? Something like that. That's very tall, 3.5 meters. And that's probably just where the shoulder of the elephant was rubbing, not even the top of its head. So it's pretty impressive. In fact, I can see some old mud on the underside of this branch over there. So that is really impressive. This must have been Ezulwini, I'd say. Ezulwini, that massive elephant bull who was rubbing his body there potentially. Or maybe even Kumo. Any of you been watching the show since the beginning here at Pridelands when we used to have Kumo and his crew, including Limpy, the one with the short back leg who used to walk around keeping up. But yeah, so we're going to stick around this waterhole for just a little while and see what else we can find. In fact, we actually found a pretty cool little nest burrow from a kingfisher. Maybe we'll take a short walk down there and show you guys it if we have time. I'd love to be able to. You can see now how the water is starting to recede. This wind is really going to be having a huge effect on how the water level is. All the silt that's here, this dark mud with the cracks in it, that has been brought from other places and deposited in the dam. And this will fill up the dam over time. So maybe in the next 10 years, the dam will hold almost no water at all. And that's something that humans have to do to maintain water in small reserves, just like here at Pridelands. Before, when Pridelands had been fenced off from the Kruger, it was a small area that didn't have a permanent body of water. So humans had to provide water if animals were to be able to live full and happy lives. Now that it's open to Kruger, animals can move to different places to get water if they need to. There are, however, a lot of animals that are very dependent on water. Impala, for example, won't stick around here unless there's any water. So whilst I walk over to where that little kingfisher's nest was, we'll send you over to Nick at Ngala.
With Mike speaking about how dependent animals are with water, we are also heading down towards a second watering hole for this morning on our way back towards the river, and we should be coming up to it in the next minute or so. And it'll be interesting to see what's moving around this waterhole this morning. It's been really quiet compared to the previous couple mornings on Ngala. And hopefully we'll find something interesting coming down to drink here. If not, we'll just continue down towards the river. Still relatively windy this morning as well, but I think this waterhole is going to be a lot more sheltered than the one we were previously at. We shouldn't have too much of an issue with wind here. A couple grey-headed sparrows in the road, and coming up on the left is Tswalu Dam. This waterhole, where unfortunately there is very limited signal. What's super interesting about this waterhole is the pace that it is drying up this year. So we were asked at the previous one if it ever dries up, and the one we were previously at less so than this one. And you can see this one, there's lots of mud coming through now, and I think within the next month there's a good chance that this waterhole is going to be completely dry. On the topic of leopards, and the first time I saw leopards from the previous segment, first time I saw baby leopards in my whole life was at this waterhole, and it was even drier and even muddier than this. And the guest actually just pointed out and said, "There's a cat up there," and I looked and I was like, "That's a leopard with 2 cubs." And the mom came down and cruised around the mud, and the 2 babies, or the 2 cubs, went straight through the mud. It was quite hilarious to watch. But there is not too much. There's a few birds coming down to drink. We'll just see. They do look like, have a look at the prominent brown on the wings and the grey head. They look like southern grey-headed sparrows, which we have been seeing lots of at this time of year. And you can see how they're all coming down very cautiously, having a quick sip of water, and then as soon as one gets a fright, quite a few of them fly off back to the safety of the buffalo thorn that they are perched in, and then flying down to the water. So we're going to continue down towards the riverbed and hopefully towards the area where the lions or the lion tracks were last seen. But for now, we're going to send you back to Tessa at Juma.
As WildEarth has shown, a guide is critical to your enjoyment when on safari. Safari Guide of the Year is an annual event which creates awareness for these men and women who dedicate their lives to tourism and wildlife. WildEarth fully supports this initiative that gives more credit to a profession that drives our economy and flies South African flags higher than most. In the lead up to our live award ceremony, where the Safari Guide of the Year 2021 will be crowned, we are inviting all our viewers to join us for a special fireside chat. Open to everyone, this unique event invites some of the top guides in the country to Juma on the 26th of September, straight after the Sunset Safari.
We had a very exciting start to our morning this morning. Today, it's our guided sunrise safari with Mike, and we started by looking at the moon through a telescope, which was incredible.
It's in fact the shadow of the Earth.
It's been a very different drive from all the other ones, very interactive.
Your pigeal gland is something the Hippos have in common.
Hi. This morning's drive with Mike was thoroughly enjoyable. He really engaged us, but we also did some birding, and I managed to add a few new birds onto my list. Overall, every single experience with all the competitors has been really incredible, but it's up to the judges now.
Haven't seen any tracks this morning other than lots of hyena tracks, Impala tracks. But it's still worth checking, especially with a beautiful drainage line area. You know, there's going to be a lot of shelter, there's a lot of trees. And a really good chance that there'll be small things like duiker and steenbok hanging around for food. Unfortunately, the wind is a bit strong today, so I know that there are a few gremlins happening with my mic at the moment. I'm very sorry that the wind is a bit inconvenient, unfortunately for the mics, but it's really good for the leopards. Really good for the leopards. So I am hoping that brings them out. I've got a few goals while I'm here the next 2 weeks. One of them is obviously as many leopards as I can find. The other is wild dogs, being very hopeful. My two favorites. This is probably one of the prettiest areas I've been in within the Sabi Sands because of all the riverbeds and trees in particular. You can tell why it's a very leopard popular area. Speaking of some prey species that I was just saying might be next to the river, we have got a bachelor herd of impalas. Actually, never mind, not bachelor. Sorry, there's actually some females, they're just hiding. So this is actually a very sheltered spot, so I'm sure you've noticed the wind has stopped in my microphone. It's not just because I'm not driving. There's actually not a breath of wind here, really. It's just a very, very slight breeze higher up. And that's fantastic. That's why these impalas are here. They're on the edge of the riverbank in a little bit of sheltered spot. Because today is such a good day for leopards to be hunting. If you can find a spot without wind, that's brilliant. So I think what I'm going to do, these guys look quite relaxed. I'm going to leave them to it. I'm going to carry on down towards the drainage line and actually go into it a little bit later. But I'll send you over to Tristan at a watering hole.
I am indeed. We are still at Treehouse Dam. I was busy just checking the tracks for this leopard and heard some oxpeckers and turned around and the sea of black was coming towards me. This buffalo herd has made it towards the dam now and they are obliterating every single track that was left by this leopard. I mean, she was walking in that area and they are just squashing them all, so not ideal right now, but still cool to see the buffalo descending on the water the way that they are. You can see how their pace quickens when they can see the water is close. They come down with a lot more speed and should fill this whole area. We should see a buffalo kind of lining up all over the place and lots of grunting and shoving and pushing as they come down. It's not ridiculously hot today, so it's not like they need the heat, but well, they need to drink because of the heat, but they, still require a fair amount of water through chewing the cud, and the amount of droppings that they drop, they lose moisture quite quickly. And most buffalo have some sort of wound on them somewhere that they need to worry about. So, there's loss of moisture through wounds as well. That's why they're very dependent on water. I'm interested to see how they all fit here. Isn't this cool, watching them coming down? I think it's very, very cool. I mean, I know we had them earlier this morning, but it's just nice when you get them coming to water the way that they are. And some of them will kind of filter around to where we are parked as well. We've kind of parked off on the edge here, so I'm pretty sure we're going to see them coming around our side and on the other side of the dam. Like I said, still a lot of animals to come. This is only just the beginning of the herd. It's nice just to listen to all the sounds of the splashing and bellows of the buffalo, so I'll keep quiet for a little bit to let you guys listen. Alright, well, we're sitting at a dam. Sounds like Mike's also at a dam, so let's send you across to him.
So the impalas have come back, although they're still very nervous. They even just caught a glimpse of us as we moved behind these bushes, and they moved away from the water's edge. They're going to go and try and walk along the edge of the dam to somewhere where they probably feel a little bit safer. You can see they're also very cold. They've got their fur raised up. They're very dark in color, and that's a sign of what we call piloerection, which is just the raising of the fur to try and trap air against their skin. There's lots of animals that will need to drink today, but it's not a comfortable day to go and drink at the Waterhole because of the fact that anything could ambush them, anything can get really, really close to them and cause them a great concern. There's some cool little birds here. I want to see if I can call them along. I'm going to make a sound that's called spishing, and it might attract these little blue wax balls a bit closer to us. They might land in these trees close by. In fact, BK, come over here. You can actually see them just from where we are, just under the water's edge. There's little blue wax balls all drinking at the water's edge. So this is what they will do. When one bird starts drinking, all of them start coming down to go and drink, because then they know it's safety in numbers. And these little blue birds are seed eaters. Malcolm, there's so many things which are so essential on a bushwalk, but Malcolm, probably a good set of binoculars is one of the things which is probably the most important thing to have, because with a good set of binoculars you can see things at a distance, you can make safety decisions, you can check for small things, you can use them as a magnifying glass, all sorts of stuff. The other very important piece of equipment, Malcolm, you shouldn't ever go without, is a radio. Now, this one is what I speak to the main, the FC, the final control room. So if there was trouble, if we got into any sort of trouble out here, I could call them and say, hey, we need help, we're in danger, or whatever. But a good set of binoculars, I think, is essential for anyone who likes to be out in nature. I'm going to try and see if I can call these birds over. Give me 2 seconds. So one blue wax ball just landed in this bush right over here. It's now hopping around in this bush. So that sound that I make is what we call a generalized bird alarm call. So it came closer. It's just hiding in this little thicket here. Oh, now it's just flown off. So they are attracted to that sound because that's the sound that they make when they've seen something like a snake or a mongoose or a predator of some sort. So they'll come forward to investigate, because these little birds do something called mobbing. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard that term before, but small animals can come together into a big group and chase away much larger animals. So it's a really cool way of getting little birds to just pop up so you can have a look at them. All's quiet now. They've all moved off. Oh, some Impala are coming back. We'll wait at the dam to see what else arrives.
So we've continued our little bumble down towards the Timbavati River, and one of the other rangers has managed to find 2 lionesses with 5 of the older-ish cubs from the Birmingham Pride. So I think our plan will be to head in that direction and just check up on them. There's a specific one of the mothers of some of the cubs. I'm hoping that she's there. I haven't heard the full update, but I'm quite keen to see how she's doing, because a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, she got into quite a bad fight with some of the other male lions coming in from the east, 2 new dominant males that are potentially going to start challenging our pride of lions, or the pride that spends most of their time on Ngala. And she got quite a bad cut on her throat, and her whole neck was swollen, and she was dripping blood and pus out of her throat. So it'll be interesting to see how she's doing. Lions are incredibly resilient animals, and they do recover quite easily. So that's our plan going forward. We're driving on a road now that leads us towards the old airstrip on Ngala. Always a good area to look for some of the general game as well. Good chance there might be some Impala or wildebeest on the airstrip, or the old airstrip. Yeah, it's been interesting weather this morning. I mean, early on it was really warm with the cloud cover keeping all the heat in, but as it's got later and later into the morning, it's actually got colder and colder, surprisingly. And it's still relatively windy. But it's nice. I'd rather drive around in the cooler weather than if it's boiling hot. If it's boiling hot, you know that if you find anything, it's not going to be doing too much. Whereas in the cooler weather conditions, you never know. You might get lucky with animals moving around and being active, which is always much better than watching resting animals. Although to see animals regardless is nice. So as we continue along this road,
welcome back to Djuma Private Game Reserve. I am sitting with a beautiful pair of Wahlberg's eagles, and what is amazing about this particular pair is it is a perfect match. It's one dark morph, the one on the left, and one pale morph, the one on the right. So as it turns its head, you might see a bit of white on the front. So it's actually a combination pair. You can see they're sitting right out in the open, in the breeze, the full breeze. I'm sure they might have been a little bit colder this morning and struggling to keep warm, but at the moment it's a really pleasant temperature. You can see they're both looking out, turning their heads, so they're watching what's happening around them. You'll see them looking down as well. The pale morph has just started looking down and backwards. So what they're doing is they're actually hunting at the moment. So they've perched and they're looking for anything small, whether it's lizards or mice or anything that's moving in the grass. And then they can come down and grab it. This is most likely a breeding pair. So it's probably one of the favorite eagles for a lot of people, because obviously it's very cool that there is a different color morph. The white morph is so beautiful, it looks like a miniature martial eagle. But at the same time, it's a monogamous species, so they pair together and they'll nest in the same nesting site year after year after year. So their nest is probably somewhere very close by here. And it is that time of the year where they should be very, very close to having chicks hatching. So while I sit with one of the amazing aerial species over here, I'm going to watch them for a little bit longer and just see what they do. I'm going to send you to Tristan, who is with his buffalo herd.
We are still with our buffalo. It's pretty epic sighting this day, and it's just literally buffalo all around us at the moment. They have come right up to where we are sitting. They're drinking right next to the car, much closer than you would ever really think buffalo would come. But because they have, we parked so far away and they kind of have come through, I think they're just like, yeah, he's nothing to worry about. And so we have them kind of stacked up all around, which is very, very cool. I just like listening to all the sounds of them. Nancy, I reckon it's probably close to 400, 500 buffalo in total in this herd. It's a decent sized herd. It's not one of the mega herds that I've seen. Back in 2011, 2012, those of you that were watching around those times, you guys would have seen much bigger herds. The biggest herd that I ever saw that came through this area was a herd. The guys stopped counting at 1,000. Well, roughly at 1,000, because they were crossing a road, and they were still double basically. So we reckon it was close to 2,000 members in that herd. So imagine this herd and times it by 4. It was ridiculous. So lots and lots and lots of buffalo that used to roll through here, but now we're kind of getting a situation where these herds are still rebuilding. So this is a big herd for the current situation, but not a big herd in terms of the past and history and those kinds of things. Whereabouts? Yes, there's our big buffalo bull, the one that's got the most ridiculous horns out here. It really is quite amazing to see an individual like that. There's very, very few that have a horn structure like that. I mean, that is as big as it gets. And you can compare it with the one next to it, which I know is a little female, but it gives you an idea of how much those horns have spread out. And the crazy thing about that buffalo is that it's still young. It's not an old buffalo. That, if you look at its condition of its body, you don't see too many sort of faded patches or hairless patches. Even its face, it hasn't developed those white patches around the eye area yet. The ears are in pretty good condition. So massive, massive individual.
Egyptian goose are still here. Even though it's windy and cold, they will not abandon their territory. And they've been very vocal about that this morning. We actually wondered if perhaps there was a predator that was moving into the area. And there's some grey go-away birds were also making a bit of noise. But it seems like they're just being their normal, noisy selves. They are aggressive defenders. What is that one actually doing? It looks like it's got its head stuck in the mud. Is it busy trying to feed? What is it doing? Yeah, it's busy maybe having a drink, but also maybe just putting its bill through the mud, trying to feel for any small vertebrates or invertebrates as well. Frogs, insects, they even eat algae, a fair amount of vegetable matter, anything they can find. They're incredibly patient. The smaller this waterhole gets, the more concentrated all these things become, and the easier it is for everything that wants to get food from them, to be honest. In fact, we haven't yet seen a fish eagle here at this dam. Well, I have never seen a fish eagle here, but I'm sure as the season progresses, before the rains fall, there will be some fish eagle action. We had a couple of yellow bull storks here 2 days ago, and they are very successful hunters of frogs, but they didn't stick around. I think with all the lions moving around, they didn't feel that comfortable, so they ended up flying away. Haven't been back since. Maybe they'll be at Tswalu Dam, close to our camp. There's a few other birds that I can see approaching now, but very small and in the distance. Looks like forked-tailed drongos and some southern black flycatchers too. The water is a great place to be on a day like today. Things must drink, so they can catch insects and all sorts of stuff that get disturbed by these creatures as they come down to the water's edge. I'm sure you can hear the wind. It's really howling, and it's only supposed to get heavier. Oh, cool. So we've got this pair of Egyptian geese, and Tessa's got another monogamous bird. Let's go and check it out.
Thank you so much, Mike. It is amazing being able to watch bird pairs do their thing. We've actually just had some movement. The pale morph is now up on the left. There it goes. And that might actually be part of hunting, so I'm very keen to see what she comes back up with. They wouldn't be nesting down at that height. They'd be nesting right up at the top in the canopy, or just below the canopy. So she had actually just done a loop. I think that's the female, I might be wrong though. Just done an aerial loop looking around and then landed there, just taken off again and flying off and landed. So I think what it's doing is flying around looking for food, and when it dipped down like that, it might have actually seen something in the grass. Beautiful to see though, as it flew, that white across its back, which the dark morph doesn't have. So the other one of the pair is still just sitting on the same branch watching. Might be looking for its own opportunity to go and hunt. But I'm really hoping you get to see this one fly as well. They are so beautiful in flight. In fact, a lot of the time they actually spend in the air when they're hunting. They can spend over an hour just gliding in the air looking for food. So they're actually particularly good at hovering while they're in flight. They'll hover over prey and then drop down. She actually, well, again, I think it's the female, the pale morph dropped down so quickly from that branch, I was pretty sure it had seen something. And I didn't unfortunately see if it got anything when it came back up where it's landed. We can't see it. This one doesn't look particularly perturbed though. I'd be interested to know where the nest is. Heather, that's a fantastic question. So, Wahlberg's eagles and battaliers are different in quite a few ways. Probably the most obvious difference is actually the size. Wahlberg's eagle is a lot smaller than a battalier. A battalier is one of the larger eagles that you would find around here. So that's quite a good difference. The confusing part might come in though when you have a juvenile battalier, because that would obviously be a lot smaller. It would be a similar size to the Wahlberg's eagle for quite a while. And the same color. Juvenile battaliers are beautiful brown with a green beak, and they have quite a short tail. And the Wahlberg's eagle also has a fairly short squarish tail, so that would be a little bit confusing. But the main differences would be in the color of the beak and the color of the feathers. When it's a juvenile, the battalier has a very striking dark green beak, where the Wahlberg's eagle, you can see, does not have that big green beak. It actually has a much smaller beak that's a little bit orangey with a blackish tip. And then the other obvious difference would be, as an adult, a battalier is mostly black feathers with a lot of white and red, and then striking red and yellow on the face, where the Wahlberg's eagle is predominantly either chocolate brown like this one, or the pale morph, that's the other part of this pair, that almost looks like a young martial eagle in color. So it's very white and speckled with dark brown. They would also have small differences in things like prey species. Because the battalier is a lot bigger, it would be able to take bigger prey, where the Wahlberg's eagle might focus more on the smaller things. It's actually very interesting. In flight, you can see the difference quite beautifully, not only in their size, because it's very difficult to judge a bird's size if you don't know what you're looking at, but also if you don't have something to compare it to. It's not often that you're going to have a battalier and a Wahlberg's eagle on the same branch that you can actually see the size difference. So a really good thing to look out for, other than those colors, would be when they're flying. A Wahlberg's eagle has a very straight tail, so it looks almost like a ruler. It's long and thin and very square, where the battalier has a very, very shortened tail, so it's almost just longer than the back of the wings. So that's a very easy difference to look for in flight. And then also in flight, you'd see underneath a battalier's wings is very white, where the Wahlberg's eagle would not be. Interestingly, when the pale morph flew off earlier, and you could really see there was a beautiful white bar on the back of its wings. which this one wouldn't have because this is the darker morph. So you can actually see, how brilliant is that? You can actually see there's a batelier flying in the background. So that was quite perfect. Thank you for preempting that, Heather. I'm going to let this Wahlberg's eagle sit on its branch, and I'm going to carry on and see if I can find any of those leopard tracks.
The Maasai Mara in Kenya is an iconic wilderness filled with life. Its inspirational beauty has captivated our hearts on WildEarth for many years. While this season of the world's greatest migration has been missed, WildEarth is preparing a spectacular comeback in 2022. For the first time ever, WildEarth will be running expeditions to Kenya's Maasai Mara throughout the 2022 migration season. Hosted by David Githu and Isaac Rotich, you could be a part of the team that shares the wildebeest migration with the world, live on WildEarth's daily safaris. If you're interested, then head over to our website to find out more.
The scribe here collected a dry grass, put it next to the waterhole as the hippo walks down during the warm of the day to drink the water. When the hippo arrives, he saw quite a very nice grass, an area not to resist to rest. And when the hippo went down to drink the water, and when finished the water, he just lied down on the grass. And then, that was the opportunity of the scribe. You know what? Today is my day to pay the revenge.
I've seen something I've never seen here before. Look at these cubs. One is crossing the river. It's being washed away, unfortunately, but I'm sure the mother is going to save her. Look at that. How beautiful. Look at that. One crossing, two to go.
Well, still with the buffalo, still taking it easy. They haven't done very much since they've arrived at the water. They're just kind of having a drink and milling about. I'm pretty sure once they've drunk now, then they're going to just find a spot that they can rest. I don't expect them to be moving around too much. It's nice, cool weather, so it's not like they're going to have to seek shade. They've got water here. They're not really being pursued by anything this morning now. So they can afford to actually take it quite easy over the next little bit. Maybe, like I say, just lie down and chew some cud and enjoy the fact that they're having a very relaxed morning of things. It's been a tumultuous few days for them. Being trailed by 8 lions for 3 days is never a nice thing if you're a buffalo. The problem is where they're heading is straight into where the inkumas are hanging about. So it's not ideal. Oh, look, there's a buffalo that's browsing. They don't do it often, but there is one that's stopped now, of course. I just pointed it out. Well, there's actually one doing it on the other side. It's a little gardenia that they're eating. I wonder if they're not trying to eat the flowers. Generally, browsing is actually very bad for buffalo. What it does is the tannins in the leaves disrupt their bacteria gut and causes them to get diarrhea. Candace, which animal tracks can be mistaken as buffalo tracks? So, I mean, if we exclude cows, because obviously you don't get cows in here, but if you excluded cows, the only other one that could be a little bit similar would be maybe young giraffe. But the shape is all wrong. Buffalo have very round hooves, whereas giraffe have very elongated, almost kind of rectangular shape without that sort of rounded end. So yeah, that would be the only one. Young giraffe maybe could be, but it's really difficult to get a buffalo track wrong. It's they've got a very distinctive shape to it. There's nothing really else out here of that same size and shape that you could really confuse it for. Also, the other nice thing with buffalo is that generally when you see their footprints, there is an endless supply of dung littered about the place as well, especially in a herd like this. I mean, you'll find huge amounts of dung as well as tracks, and it's very difficult then to mistake it for anything. But if it's just a male on its own, yeah, really nothing that would be too confusing. Giraffe would be the only one I think that people would struggle. I've seen people struggle with when it comes to their tracks. Nice to hear the yellow-billeds calling. Lots of yellow-billed oxpeckers calling this morning. Hear them now. But I see some of the buffalo starting to sit down now in the background. I think this is where they're going to lay up for the next little bit before they then continue their march southwards. Eventually they're going to cross out this morning. I don't think they'll be around this afternoon. They're going to head south. It looks like they're heading down towards sort of Little Gary Hoffman's cut line. I know this herd has gone down as far as Mala and Londolozi. So it's very possible that they kind of make that sort of appearance down there, and then they'll eventually turn and come back. All right, so I think we'll probably leave these guys now. We'll probably go see what else we can find. In the meantime, let's send you across to Nick, who's providing the feline element of this morning's drive.
So we have managed to catch up with these two older lionesses, and there are 5 cubs just at the back of the lionesses, but I think they're very tired this morning and they seem to be very lazy and just resting. We did have a brief view of one of the cubs popping their heads up, so I think that's going to be the aim of the game this morning, just to be patient and hope that in the next while they will move. They're just resting on the banks of the Timbavati riverbed. It is 2 of the older lionesses with 5 of the cubs and the rest of the pride missing in action. But often it will happen with younger lions as well, or when lions have cubs, that they don't spend as much time with the pride just because it's difficult for them to keep up with the pride with the smaller ones. You might also hear some noises in the background. It is because we are sitting right next to andBeyond Ngala tented camp. These lions are less than 70 meters from one of the guest rooms. So excuse me for the noise in the background, but it's life. Have a look at this lioness though. You'll see her nose is nice and dark, which indicates to us that she's a little bit older. And look how big her head is. She's got a very big round head. And that lioness at the back that's got the little bit of scruffy fur on her neck, that's the lioness that I was mentioning that got into the fight with the males and has got the big gash on her throat. I haven't yet been able to see how that wound is looking, but she seems to be fine. She's moving her head around. She doesn't look too swollen. She's looking far better than when I initially saw her, only a few days after she got into the scuffle. So it's good news. We were worried about her and we were interested to see how she was going to progress, but we know lions are resilient and they recover from almost anything. So she seems to be on the mend. She should be fine. See how this lioness is carefully looking back away from us, or to sort of the opposite direction to the direction we're facing, and is because I can see one impala directly behind us, and just behind the impala also a herd of elephants. So Layla, without a doubt, the main pride, I'm sure most of you that follow WildEarth will know that the main pride of lions that we get to see are known as the Birmingham Pride, and their territory is for the majority centered on Ngala's property. So it tends to be the lions that we follow the most, as well as the fact that the 2 white lions are members of that pride. So often guests that come to Ngala really hope to see the white lions, so we spend a lot of time searching for this pride and these lions, and the fact that most of the time we can find them on the property. However, Ngala is open to the Timbavati to our west and north, and obviously the Kruger National Park to our east, and the Manyaleti on our southeast. So there are a number of unidentified lions that can venture onto the property. I mean, there's the Mbiri Pride, which come in from the southeast, which I don't think any of the rangers would be able to clearly identify every single lion in the pride, especially if they were on their own. Then you get the Mayanbula Pride and the Skoro Prides that come in from the east as well, and the Birmingham Breakaway Pride in the sort of western, northwestern and central western sectors, as well as the Avaka Pride. I mean, that gives us 6 different prides of lions that we can see on Ngala. And then young male lions, when they leave their natal pride, they tend to move off and they become nomadic. So often young males will venture onto the property, and then we'll have no idea who they are or where they've come from. It's also important to remember that they're wild animals, so it's nice to not know every single individual within the prides and just know them as being an older lioness or a younger lioness, and just being able to watch them behaving naturally. But with this pride of lions, most of the rangers on Ngala tend to know them really well because we see them so often. So we're going to stick around with these lions and see, maybe they move down into the riverbed, but for now we're going to send you back to Juma and Tess, who's at a waterhole.
Thank you so much, Nick. Welcome back to Djuma Private Game Reserve. I am sitting with probably my favorite antelope species in the world at Djuma Dam. We've got 4 beautiful Nyalas that are just starting to feed on the greenery that's starting to grow just on the edges of the dam. So as the water levels dropped, there's been some greenery that started popping up. There you can see it really nicely with the others. So they've started spreading out. They're nice and relaxed next to the waterhole. And what that tells me is there's probably not any predators right here. They would be nervous of crocodiles, but in terms of other predators, they look very, very relaxed, feeding just on the edge. So you can imagine these plants that are growing, it's nice and fresh, which means it's young shoots. That's why they're so green. They're going to be nice and soft and full of nutrition and water because they are growing just on the water's edge. So it looks like in the overall picture, it's 2 mothers with 2 older lambs. That being said, though, both of the bigger ones, so that one on the right, and then there's another one that we saw earlier on, they do look like they have fairly large bellies, so I'm wondering if they're not pregnant again. I've always loved just that striking color. They are so different to anything else that I would find here, you know. Definitely relaxing on the edge of the water. So this is actually quite a vulnerable position for her to be in. She's got her head down facing the water, and if a predator comes up from behind her, there is a little bit of cover behind her, which means the predator can actually hide fairly well. There is a breeze blowing, so the predators have the advantage here. And so that's why you'll see like that. She looks up every now and then, she flicks her ears around, she's listening, she's smelling. And then when she's happy, nothing much to worry about, she'll go back to munching on her breakfast. It's quite a beautiful reflection of her actually in the water. This is probably one of the most spoken about antelope species in South Africa because of how different the males are to the females and just how elegant they are. Probably my favorite thing about them is the way they walk. You can see she looks quite regal, tiptoeing along with her head bobbing. So I'm going to enjoy that. She's actually walking over towards a heron. So I'm going to watch that for a little while and yeah, we'll see what they do from here.
So we are looking at this fallen nest, and I'm wondering to myself, it was a red-billed buffalo weaver's nest. It was, 100%. They have built it out of these sticks full of sharp spines and thorns, which is as BK is experiencing as he steps around onto these spines. But they've done this so that they can be protected from most predators. Monkeys and other birds might not be able to get onto this nest. And it's usually hollow inside. So that's what it was. However, I'm kind of wondering if this was on top of the nest, potentially. Because I know oftentimes Egyptian goose will nest on top of the buffalo weaver's nest. Now, buffalo weaver is a small bird, only about this big, whereas an Egyptian goose is the size of a goose. And so the buffalo weaver's living inside, the goose is on top. Just because I see a lot of white feathers here. Now, buffalo weavers are almost completely black, apart from a little bit of white on their wings, whereas this is white feathers, looks like from the breast of a bird. And all of these downy feathers here could be from the goose chicks when they were first fledging and losing some of these feathers. So it's just very interesting to me. I really wonder, if this is maybe the top of the nest. But in any case, it's interesting how there's been grass used to make it softer and more insulated against all those thorns, and then the downy feathers here makes it even more soft and warm. And these are incredibly soft. Goodness, if I could collect all of these up, it would make a wonderful pillow. Nice and soft, these feathers. It's obviously what keeps the chicks nice and warm in the otherwise very cold days like today. But as soon as they get down to the water's edge, they will have lost some of these downy, fluffy feathers and will have more waterproof feathers covered in oil and nice and smooth, so that they can swim on the surface of the water without getting completely waterlogged. Very cool.
Welcome back. I'm still sitting at Djuma Dam, and the Nyala actually disturbed this. It looks like a juvenile grey heron disturbed it, and it's actually come out into the water, but now it looks like it's actually hunting. Watch how it's moving its head, looking at the water. And this is always really interesting to watch, because what they do is, as soon as they've seen something that they can hunt, it actually just, almost like a spring-loaded mechanism, it just shoots its head straight into the water and uses that sharp beak either to clamp around something like a fish or actually to stab straight through it. So it's really interesting to watch how they hunt. Kind of just walks along the edge slowly. It disturbs a little bit with its feet, and then there you go, got him. Just bolt down, there you go. And grab a fish. That poor fish is not having the best day. There goes the fish for breakfast. At least we saw a kill. Here you can see the Nyala, quite the size difference. There it's hunting again. Watch how it kind of elevates its head. It's looking for a better angle. It must be quite hard to see through the water at different angles because of the reflection. So you've got to have a pretty good advantage, and just before it strikes, it stands dead still. So there's no other movement. You can see how slowly it's moving its legs through the water. I love how it repositions the neck like that. There we go again. Doesn't look like it was successful, that Oh, almost. Very, very interesting to watch. So I think I'm going to actually leave this heron and the Nyalas to have their relaxing breakfast around the dam. And I'm going to send you over to Juma. To Tristan, who's also on Juma. And he's bumbling around hoping to beat me to that leopard.
Yeah, I'm sure Tessa's kind of mind has gone back into being, there's an African hawk eagle, being back at Ngala and kind of doing WildEarth from Ngala. No, don't fly away. It's flying away. Maybe it'll land on that tree. There we go. Little African hawk eagle. Our leopard search, well, we've only just kind of left those buffalo right now, so kind of just hoping that we're going to get something popping out for us somewhere along the way here. But the buffalo really have kind of disrupted the ability to search for that leopard. The tracks are now null and void. So we're just going to have to hope that she's popped out over our tracks somewhere. The reality is, though, is if she has popped out over our tracks, it's because she's crossed the boundary and is no longer on our side, which will be quite sad. I'm going to just try and check twin dams quickly because maybe, just maybe, if it's Klalamba, she likes to go down towards twin dams and the Mulawati. So we'll go and have a look there. Anyway, African hawk eagle, always nice to see. I don't know where the other one is. There's normally two together here. This is the pair that nests on Juma. They see them quite regularly around the Mulawati system and sort of milling about in this section. They normally, you'll find the one kind of sitting like this and then the other one sitting close by. But maybe this morning they've been out hunting and the other one is still flying and hasn't landed yet. Remember that these guys will cooperatively hunt, so they will use each other in order to find the food that they need. So the one will kind of swoop down and disturb others, and then the other one comes flying in from nowhere and grabs these disturbed guinea fowl or francolins or whatever bird it may be that they're going after. So very interesting to watch these birds. Remember, this is the favorite bird of the guy that trained us. He says they're absolutely amazing creatures. Pretty as well. You know, we've had the two spotted eagles this morning. We had martial eagle earlier, and now African hawk eagle. Off it goes. You can see the heading off into the distance of twin dams. Maybe it's leading us to our leopard. Should we follow it like a honey guide? Maybe it can be like a leopard guide. That'd be cool. Should train a bird to find leopards and then call us. There's lots of hyena tracks here, no leopardy tracks that we're looking for. See, our warthog carcass that Mulawati left us from April has finally fallen out in the tree. It's the Easter carcass, exactly. The Easter carcass is finally gone. Took a while, 6 months. Good time. Ranga, yes, I would imagine that it would. Drought would affect a number of things, so birds being one of them. If you've got birds that rely on water, so whether it be fish or insects, you're not going to get them here. They're just not going to come. They'll fly over and not spot water and therefore not be here. If they can't eat, they can't survive. So they would really need to try and find somewhere that they can at least find the food that they need. So your numbers of various species will decline if they can't. It's just how life works. So yeah, I think the fish eaters you'll probably find are going to not be in the area, and those that can't find other things will eventually, die from it if they can't find food. So drought pretty much affects everybody: insects, birds, fish, mammals. No one is exempt from the threats of drought and how it can kind of cause havoc with everybody. Sure, it's going to be nice when this greens up, this little fire area on the left. This looks so bleak and so dark. This is how it used to look. To those of you that wondered about the drought and what it would look like, this left-hand side, that's how the whole reserve looks. You couldn't tell the difference between the road and the reserve. Just completely barren. Nice to see that flush up again soon. I'm pretty sure we're going to get some decent rain at some point, and then this will be this beautiful bright green carpet. And you'll find a lot of things like zebra and wildebeest come and spend their time feeding off it. Buffalo too. These buffalo will love it. All right, let's do a final loop for this leopard just to see if it's come out and crossed over, which it looks like it has behind me here. Just double check these tracks and hope that it's not them.
I have a degree in environmental planning and development. My passion is outdoor classrooms. We are not only grooming the environmentalists of tomorrow, but tomorrow's leaders as well. My long-term goal is for the people of South Africa to learn how to live sustainably, to be able to look after themselves and the environment. So I hope that through environmental education, we are able to get that message to the future generation of South Africa so that they start now and can continue that good practice in the future. Environmental education is critical so that people can live sustainably in the future. That is my long-term goal.
It's day one of the annual South African Guide of the Year competition, and our first foot into this competition this morning is all about tracks and signs.
We're going to call you in one at a time. Just look at it, the information will be there.
Our 5 guides have been tasked by the judges at figuring out who is what is who, and where they go in the bush.
Either Franklin or guinea fowl, but because of the volume of other deposits in the area, we went with guinea fowl.
Detailing the surrounding that you need to look out for tracks. The details is very important.
You are cheeky. That was a brave decision. Amber Eyes is... That is so magic. That was absolutely wonderful. Amber Eyes just gave that cub an enormous hug.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Come across to the other side of Leopard Dam and found where that whole pride of lions drank 2 days ago in the edge of this waterhole. Now it's interesting that they drank here quite far away from the water level. Now I actually wonder if maybe the water level hasn't dropped quite significantly. So you can see this mud here is starting to get dry, and it's even starting to crack inside there. It would have been very wet when it first put its paw here 2 days ago. Just goes to show what a difference a little bit of wind makes to drying out the tracks in the water holes. Now this was one of the youngsters almost certainly, and this would have been a left foot, because you can see how my fingers fit perfectly into the track over there. And here as well is another left. I'll show you. I'll move these few leaves out the way. If I put my fingers there, once again they fit nicely in there. So that's another left foot. See if I can find a right. There's a right over here. This one's a much larger track. So those were the youngsters, and this is one of the mothers, or maybe even the male. It wouldn't have been the male, but anyway, you can see my fingers of my right hand fit in this one perfectly. So this was a right foot of a lion, and they would have been lying down flat over here and stretching their necks out in order to drink at the edge of the water. They have to be wary, although they're very powerful. They still have to be careful of crocodiles that might be in here. Lorna, it's just one pride of lions that operates here. Well, I say operates, that lives here, has their core territory here, and that's the Ngati pride, with 3 lionesses, probably about 10 cubs, and there's a male lion that's with them currently. He was seen this morning with the pride, and there's Lagatha, the one single lioness who moves by herself around the reserve. We don't know where she is at the moment, haven't seen her for a while, and there's 2 other male lions that we see quite frequently moving around here. But all in all, a fairly healthy and strong and stable population of lions that moves around here. I mean, with 10 cubs, 10 youngsters, that's amazing. And I hope that they can raise them to full grown, or at least to a year or 2 years when they start to move away. Yeah, you can see the mud, the tracks in the mud there as well, much clearer. So this is a better place to drink. It's shallow enough that no crocodile is going to come and grab them. For those of you who've been watching the show for a while, you might have seen that quite amazing shots, although obviously tragic, images of the cheetah which got caught by a crocodile. Now that can happen to a lion as well. So these lions, although there's no crocodiles in here, or we can never say there's no crocodiles, there could be some in here. I mean, just look across this water. It's green, murky. We've never seen a croc here, but there's no reason why one couldn't have moved in here during the night, looking for more water. And so these lions instinctively know they need to be careful of water. Christy, tracking is one of my favorite things to do. I was actually speaking to another guide, a few months ago, and we said, when you start out guiding, it's all about seeing the animals and taking photos and these experiences, but the longer you do it, the more your knowledge and your sort of what you want out of it starts to change, and tracking becomes quite a big part of the safari experience, because your skills in tracking, it really is skill. It's not just simply luck when we go out trying to find animals. I mean, for example, this morning we found that drag mark, and we followed it until we found the carcass where the hyenas had been feeding on it. So it becomes something that we find a lot of enjoyment out of, finding animals by following their tracks. And I mean, there's a lot of tracks all over here, mostly geese tracks, but some storks as well. Lots and lots of Impala tracks all over here. Oh, wow. I mean, something that will never get perfected. You can never perfect the art of tracking, but you always get better every single day. Something that I'd like to work more on. But I hope you've enjoyed this morning's show. It's been fantastic. I've really enjoyed it. Had some animals coming down to the waterholes, even though it's cold and windy. It's just been a great morning. So don't forget to come and watch us this afternoon as well. Hopefully the weather's a little bit better, where we do more live safaris from multiple locations all over Southern Africa. And maybe, just maybe, we'll catch up with that lion pride again. Maybe there'll be some leopards. Maybe we'll see what happened with those buffaloes at Juma. Who knows? See you this afternoon.